Hey, are you ever going to start this podcast you've been talking about for like forever?
Do you think that anyone will actually want to listen to something like this?
What is your plan for an introduction?
Are you sure you want to talk about these topics? People usually disagree.
3 hours? Are you crazy?
Do you think you're some kind of expert or something?
Are you planning to have an intro song?
What if a bunch of people get really mad and hate you over this?
Do you even know how to make a podcast?
Are you just doing this because you like to argue with people?
Don't let this be just one more thing that you talk about doing, but never actually do.
Wouldn't it be better to do just one episode for each topic?
Stop trying to change people's opinions. Just live your own life.
Dude, people are never going to agree. Just let it go.
Is this going to be a long intro? Because if it is, I'm bored already.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Why Can't We Talk About That? I appreciate you. You may be surprised by this, but I have something to say before we get to today's episode. This is something that I have said before, but I just want to make sure that I am clear by what I mean. It's my own personal belief that if you post something publicly, this means that you are open to discussing it. For example, if you have a political view, or really any belief system or opinion that you hold to, then this can remain private. It's yours alone. But as soon as you post it on Facebook or anywhere else, you are now opening it up for discussion. In the past, I have had people post something controversial on a public forum, and when I ask a question about it, they say this: "Stop trolling me! You're being a troll!" And I'm like, dude, all I did was ask a question about what you said publicly. If you don't want to discuss it, then don't. Don't post it publicly. Keep it to yourself. Or share it with a friend over coffee or cheeseburgers. Nobody is saying that you have to discuss your beliefs with anyone. It's not a requirement. But if you do, be prepared for others to say something about it. Of course, these people who will call you a troll if you comment on their posts in a contrary way don't mind the people who agree with their post. If they post something and then someone else responds with a "right on, man," or "I couldn't agree more," these people aren't called trolls, are they? Why is this? My guest today is Cameron Armas. I had never even spoken with Cameron before the meeting you are about to hear. I always get a little nervous in situations like this because I don't know if it will be awkward or if we will have things to talk about. I don't even know what kind of personality they will have, so I'm going in completely blind, and that's scary sometimes. Well, for me anyway. Maybe I'm just a wuss. I really had no reason to be concerned though, because we ended up having a really good conversation. Cameron is a cool guy, and I really enjoyed getting to know him better. Things discussed today are Tech 9, NF, Eminem, 50 Cent, Tom MacDonald, racism, KJ52, raising daughters, falling in reverse, Nancy Pelosi, Joe Biden punching Donald Trump, Tucker Carlson, Hunter Biden's laptop, Gavin Newsom, rain in Seattle, living in California, the Amish, Barack Obama, intersectionality, the military, God allowing hard things to happen to us, faith healers, reasons to trust the Bible, the LDS Church, tithing, anxiety and panic, being on the autism spectrum, ADHD, video games and school shootings, Catholicism, does suicide send a person straight to hell, how does a person get saved, witchcraft, and demonic influence. If you haven't yet, please leave a review wherever you are listening from. This will really help me out. I'm always interested in your feedback, whether good or bad, so please contact me at whycan'twetalaboutthat@proton.me. You can also contact me on that same email to let me know if you or anyone else you know might be interested in being a guest on the show. Thanks. Also, I hope you all have a fun and safe Halloween. Eat lots and lots of candy. Now, enjoy the conversation. Okay, perfect. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. It took me a while.
Yeah.
I can't believe.
Yeah, well, I'm not a technology person myself, so I always need help with this stuff. I can't figure out how to do anything. So, but then I saw Sarah pop up, and I was like, Sarah? Who's Sarah?
I don't know who that is either.
Well, my name's not the same either. Ian is a friend of mine who runs the Zoom account, so he's the only reason I'm able to do the ones like this. So, yeah. So, well, it's good to meet you, man.
Yeah, it's good to meet you too.
Yeah.
Hi.
How's it going?
Oh, not too bad. It took me a while to figure this out because, like,
Yeah.
I mean, I've never used Zoom before.
Okay. Yeah, it's kind of tricky.
I've heard about it mainly because, like, when like COVID hit, everybody had to use Zoom to do their business meetings because they're like, oh well, COVID is this, and you can't come here because we're all quarantined.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And that's I think that's when Zoom blew up, really. I mean, they became multi-billionaires overnight, I'm sure.
Yeah, I believe so too.
Yeah, for sure. So
I do know that Justin told me a little bit about you.
Oh yeah? Oh, I'm sure it's all bad.
Well, I find it a little interesting because I don't know if I should believe him or not, but he said that you used to be the bodyguard for Michael Jackson.
Okay, so that's half true. I was never his bodyguard, but I did work at Neverland Ranch for 3 years. So that is true. But yeah, not his bodyguard. But I worked in the amusement park out there, so I ran like he had a bunch of like fair rides and stuff, so I would run those. So that was a fun job, man. It was a lot of fun. Had a lot of got to see a lot of celebrities and stuff out there. Okay, so bodyguard, yeah, definitely not a bodyguard.
I figured I had a pretty hard days at work, you know.
Oh yeah, what do you do for work?
Well, I work at the mill over in the log yard, and
okay.
Every day is kind of interesting because, like, I'm wondering, so what's gonna happen? Is the four-wheeler gonna break down and I'm gonna get ran over by a cat?
Oh no. Ugh.
Because, like, I mean, I have to drive back and forth in between, like, the log yard where they're hauling the logs and they're stacking up the logs.
Yeah.
And it's like, I know it has problems shifting, and I told my boss about it a couple of times, and he's like, oh yeah, the last employee said that too.
Like it's not a big deal. Wow. Wow.
And it's like every time when I'm driving, it's like, okay, well, I know like the worst case scenario could happen is a breakdown right in the middle of traffic, and then I would have nowhere to go.
Right, yeah. Is it far from your house?
Well, I live like an hour out of work, and I don't have a driver's license, so they're like, so here's this four-wheeler, and you can drive it wherever you need to go.
Oh, okay. Well, that's cool.
Yeah,
that's
me and my wife are, believe it or not, this is like my second job I got, but you know, I'm very grateful that I got it.
Oh yeah, sure. And how old are you?
Only 24.
24. Okay, nice. And you telling me you and your wife are having your first baby soon, huh?
Yeah, we're really excited about it.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's fun. Do you guys know what you're having?
We do. We think it's a boy. The doctor thinks so.
Okay.
They didn't know for sure because during the ultrasound, the baby refused to open its legs.
A little bit shy, huh?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Oh man, that's really cool. Well, congratulations on that, man. That's really, really cool. I was 20 when our first was born, and she's now 25. So that was a million years ago, seems like. But yeah, so that's fun, man. Being a dad is a huge blessing. So
it's a lot of responsibility too.
That too. Yep, exactly. So, all right.
I will admit though that the video quality, it does lag here and there, but it's
okay.
not
So
bad.
yeah, so as long as you can hear me and I can hear you, that's really the most important thing, because the video is not going to be published, right? Like when people go to listen to the podcast, it's just going to be the audio. So Yeah. So as long as you can hear me and I can hear you, we're good to go.
So does this like go on YouTube or like Facebook?
It doesn't go on YouTube, but it goes out to all the major podcast providers like Apple, Spotify, Amazon.
Okay.
So yes.
I do have a Spotify account, so I can like go listen to the podcast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can find it on there. You can even go like to Google and on the internet and just type in "Why can't we talk about that?" and it'll come up, and you can even just listen online as well. So, yeah,
I am actually kind of curious. So, like, what made you want to create a podcast like this?
Oh boy. Well, I've always enjoyed talking to people about everything. I've always been that way. And then there was a guy I used to work with who actually ended up being on season 1. I think he's episode 7 of season 1. But him and I used to work together, and I was a Christian and he was an atheist, and we used to sit and just talk about, you know, God and the Bible, and we'd have some really, really good discussions, and we were able to do it without getting angry at each other or yelling at each other, calling each other names. And I just thought that was really cool. And him and I, you always used to say, man, we should have like a radio show. We should get a radio show. And we'd always say that. This was before there was even podcasts. Like there was no such thing as a podcast at that time. And so then you fast forward a couple years, and then another friend of mine started a podcast, and he had me on his podcast a few times. And then that's when I really started thinking to myself, boy, this would be really cool to do, you know? So it kind of sat in my head for 3 or 4 years. And then I just said, you know, let's do it and see what happens. So I just started doing it, and then here we are, you know? So I'm not a professional. I really, as far as the techie stuff goes, my 22-year-old son, he does all this stuff. He does all the behind the scenes stuff. I really just set this up, and then I record these, and he does all the editing and all that stuff. So yeah, when you go and listen, you'll hear there's a theme song. He wrote that himself, and it's like it's all that stuff is him. So I just do the talking.
Sounds like he's very talented.
He is, yeah, and he's actually a musician himself. He's got a couple self-produced albums that he's wrote and released, and so yeah, he's very talented. So, all right. So I don't know if you know the format, but we go through music, and we go through politics, and we go through spirituality. So I usually start with music, pretty easygoing topic. So are you a music fan? Do you like to listen to music?
I like listening to music.
Okay. Do you have any specific genre that you like more than others?
Well, to be quite frankly honest, I grew up listening to hip hop.
Okay, me too. Nice.
Yeah, I actually kind of think it's funny because like in school, and my grandfather was like, "You listen to that crap? I can't believe you."
Yep, my dad to this day calls it crap. That's what he says, rap crap. So.
Yeah, and you know some of these rappers, everyone tries to say, oh well, they're promoting drugs and they're trying to sell women and sex and like other stuff, but I don't listen to those ones. I listen to the ones who talk about life.
Okay, nice. Do you have any favorites?
Well, right now I haven't. Well, one of my like rappers I've been listening to a lot. I listen to a lot of Tech Nine, to be honest.
Okay, nice.
I don't know if you know who that is.
I've never heard any of his solo. I mean, any of his own stuff. But there's a rapper I like called NF. I don't know if you've heard of NF. It's the initials NF.
Oh yes.
But he has a song on his Clouds album that features Tech Nine. That's the only time I've ever heard him. I've never heard any of his actual stuff. So
NF, yeah, I love NF too.
Okay.
Matter of fact, I hear he's going to be dropping a new album here.
Well, he just did. Yeah, he just put out. I think it was last month. He put out Hope. Was the name of it?
Hope.
Yeah. It's a good one. It's real good.
He has a song called Hope too.
Yes, that's the first song on the new album. So, yeah.
Really?
Have you seen the video?
No, I haven't, but
Okay.
I think I had exclusive early release on Spotify.
Oh, okay. Nice. Yeah, that's a good song.
My wife, she bought me the Spotify Premium, so I get a lot of new songs, like early released.
Okay, that's awesome.
I like it. I'm not able to listen to music while I'm working though.
Oh no! Oh, because you're working like on heavy machinery and stuff, right?
No, not right now. I'm actually working for a temp agency called Integrated Personnel.
Oh, okay. Okay, but they don't let you have an earbud in and listen to music while you're working? No. Oh, bummer.
Because I have to pay attention to all the traffic around me.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's important.
Because I mean, they have a dump truck that's like the size of a house that goes up there, like drives by me every day to go up and dump ash burned by the boiler, I believe.
Oh, okay. Wow. So.
Yeah, I think you may have heard of the mill that we work at.
Yeah.
Because they have mills all over.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where you're from.
I'm in Southern California.
Okay.
So yeah, much different.
they might actually have one down there.
Okay. That could be. What's the name of the company?
Potlatch Deltic.
Okay. Yeah, that doesn't sound familiar, but that doesn't mean anything. I'm not very observant with that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So Tech 9. So I usually ask people if there's something I haven't heard a lot of. Could you recommend, like if I was going to start listening to Tech 9 tomorrow, is there a certain album I should start on, or is there a certain song I should listen to?
Well, that's a good question. Because see, nobody's like ever asked me that.
Oh yeah.
For most of the time, like 90% of the time when I try to suggest music, people like, oh, I don't want to listen to your stuff.
Oh yeah, really? How funny. Is that because it's rap, or like a lot of people don't like rap, or?
Well, I grew up listening to a lot of underground rap. Like when I grew up and everything, I was listening to a lot of Eminem and 50 Cent.
Okay. Yeah. And who turned you on to that kind of, like, where did you hear that
my
first?
uncle.
Your uncle?
My uncle did, actually. He actually, if I remember right, he gave me an MP3 player with all these like Eminem tracks on it.
Okay.
And then like I just started listening to it on repeat.
Yeah. 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 I was a huge Eminem fan too, back in whenever that was, like late 90s, I think, when he first came out. Like his first couple albums were awesome. I think that Marshall Mathers LP is probably one of the best rap albums of all time.
You ever heard of the first album he ever came out with?
Infinite or
Infinite, yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that one too. It's a little different. So it's just not quite the same rap style that he came up with later, but yeah.
And then like his new music, it's okay, but I can't really get into it the same way I used to.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I remember, I want to say it was when, whatever the album after the Marshall Mathers LP was, the
Eminem Show.
The Eminem Show. That's the one. So when that one was coming out, I remember in an interview, he was saying that if he ever got to the point where his new album wasn't as good as the previous one, then he would just quit. Like, in other words, if I don't improve with every album, then I'm going to quit. And I'm like, well, you must have lied, because I don't think any of your new ones are as good as the older ones. You know what I mean? So, but.
Well, the funny thing is that I think after he made his album Relapse, he was on the verge of retiring.
Oh, okay.
And then he came back because he went through like drugcore.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Didn't he almost die or something? He had a overdose, or didn't he almost die? I think he almost died or something at one point.
Have you ever? Okay, if I ever told you, Eminem is actually probably by far my favorite rapper.
Okay.
If I were to tell you a good song, I would say "Going Through Changes" would be a good one.
Okay.
Do you know why?
No.
It tells you exactly why he quit doing drugs.
Oh, okay.
And the real reason why he quit doing drugs was because his daughter, Emily, found him unconscious in the bathroom floor, overdosed.
Ouch.
Yeah, I guess from what the doctor said is that he tried swallowing like a pound of heroin.
So was he trying to kill himself?
I think so. And then like during like when he made the Relapse album, that was basically him venting.
Oh, okay.
He was like coming over the drug problem and detoxing.
Okay. Wow. That's scary stuff, man.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, see, I don't oof. Yeah, that's unfortunate, you know.
Yeah, but you know what's the crazy thing is like how many Grammys and how many rewards he won while he was on drugs.
Yeah. Well, for some artists, that's why they keep doing drugs, because they don't think that they can write, you know, Grammy winning songs unless they're high. You know, like there's been a lot of artists like that, and sometimes it almost seems true, you know, because there's certain bands that they're all on drugs and they have all these problems, and their best albums are coming out, and then they make money and they get clean, and then the next album is like, dude, what is this? This is horrible. Like this isn't even good. Like, what are you doing? You know? So, but
you know, the funniest thing I think I ever seen was when Eminem first came out and everything, and I was listening to the songs now. All of his fans thought he was legit and that he was actually doing this stuff, and then he released the album like Marshall Mathers LP2.
Yeah.
Explaining that he doesn't actually do this stuff. He's just joking around.
Right. Well, he even says that, I think, in the song Stan, right? He says, I do that just clowning, you know? Yeah, exactly. And I always wonder about a lot of the rappers, if that's kind of what they do anyway. Like, are they really all living that lifestyle that they talk about? Are they all, you know, at the big parties, they got, you know, they're sleeping with 10 different girls a day, and they're, you know, is that really? And then they're shooting each other all the time. I mean, I know that does happen, obviously. You know, you see it in the news.
If you want a rapper that's like the perfect example of that lifestyle, I would say 50 Cent.
Yeah. I haven't heard very much of his stuff either. I had another.
Did you know that before he got famous, he got shot 9 times and survived?
Woo! That's impressive.
He got shot 9 times in the face.
Okay.
And survived.
In the face?
Yeah.
Wow. Somebody was looking out for him, I guess.
Well, yeah. God was on his side.
Yep. Oh, man.
Oh.
All right, go ahead.
I will admit, rap and music is not the same anymore.
No, it's not. It's not. There's very few new rappers that I like. I think there's a few. I think. Have you ever heard of Tom MacDonald?
Yes, I'm a huge fan.
Oh, of Tom MacDonald?
Yeah. Nice.
Okay, very cool. What's what's your favorite? Do you have a favorite song by him? A favorite album?
I would say that if I don't really listen to very many of his albums, but I listen to a lot of his music. I would say if I had a favorite song, it would have to be Cloned Rappers.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. That's just kind of a scary one.
or the one they're trying to kill me or something like that.
Oh yeah, the one where it shows and he's got the little clip where he's like, "They're in the house, they're in the house." You know, that whole thing. Yeah. That's good stuff, man. I think probably the Us Against the World album. That's my favorite album of his, because that song, and that's the one that's got America on it. What else is on there? I think Fake Woke is on that one. But yeah, just some really good songs on there.
Okay, so if I were to say if my absolute favorite song from Tom MacDonald, I would have to say it would have to be either If I Was Black or White.
Oh yeah, White Boys with that one's featuring somebody else, right?
Not White Boys, but like just the song White Boy.
Oh, gotcha. That's a different one. Yeah. Yep.
When he's trying to explain to everyone that not every white man's racist.
Right. Exactly. Which that's something that's and the sad thing about that is I think most people believe that that's true, that not all white people are racist, right? But there's like certain groups that just are putting that stuff out there, and making it sound like that. But so.
Well, I do have an honest opinion on this.
All right, let's hear it, man.
My honest opinion is I think it's either the Democrats or Republicans, because they want us to discriminate each other. So that way we always stay separated and never get together. Yeah. Because if we get together with the black people, we'd probably fight back.
Mm-hmm. Against the government, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. They want that you divide and conquer, right? Is what they say. If they can keep us divided, then they have more power.
And if you really, 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 really like Tom MacDonald, then you'd like the song "The System."
Yeah. That's a good one too. Yep. Yeah, I'm brand new to him too. I just my cousin showed him to me about a year ago, and I had never heard of him before. And then I went back, and I literally got everything. I have everything all the way back to his very, very first album, where he was like, his first 3 albums are way different. Like, he's not political at all. He's like your typical rapper where he's talking about girls and drugs and drinking, and it's just your typical kind of rap, But
the funny thing is that I like Tom MacDonald a lot, simply for the fact that he is different from all the other rappers.
Right.
He's not about the money. He's not about the women, and he's not, and he's not about making music for what people want. He's making music for what he wants to put out.
Right. Well, because he doesn't have a label. Right, he just self-produces everything. His girlfriend does all the music videos, which is awesome. Yeah, and that's the kind of person that can basically say screw the system and just be like, no, you have no control over me. I don't have a label telling me, hey Tom, you can't say that on your album, or you can't talk about that. And he's like, no, I'm going to talk about it because no one's going to stop me. So yeah, I appreciate that.
Did you know what really actually I find funny is that Tom MacDonald bought a beat from Eminem and made a song.
I saw that. Yeah, that was awesome. And the song was about Eminem, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. Yeah, that's awesome. I always wonder what Eminem thinks of that. Like, because there's a Christian rapper named KJ52. I don't know if you ever heard of him.
I never heard of KJ52.
Okay, so he had a song come out called Dear Slim, and the whole idea, it was written kind of like Stan, Dear Slim, I wrote you but you're not calling, that kind of whole thing. But he's like, at the same time, he's talking about how he's praying for Eminem, and because he's a Christian rapper, and he's kind of going at that angle, and he just got all kind of flack for it. Like he was getting death threats from Eminem fans, and like all this stuff happened because of it. And So then he wrote a song about that experience, but he's talking about all that. But then he says something about how somebody gave Eminem a copy of that song when they saw him, of the Dear Slim, and in the song KJ says, "I'm kind of wondering what you thought, man." Like it's so I always wonder, like, when Eminem or somebody like that hears that song that's about them or whatever, like what do they think? Like, what does Eminem think about Tom MacDonald? Is he like, oh, this guy's a good rapper, I like him, or he's like, this guy's, I can't stand this guy and I can't believe he bought a beat from me and he used it or whatever,
I have no idea, to be honest, but I can tell you one thing is his fans were not very appreciative of him making that song.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure, man. It's a scary thing. And I don't know if you've ever seen any of Tom MacDonald's like videos that he does, like when an album comes out, where he's talking about the making of it. And have you ever seen any of those where he's like almost in tears and he's talking, he's a little over dramatic, I think, sometimes, but he's always like, oh man, I almost died I got all these death threats putting this album out. And because he's talking about things that people are trying to silence, especially where he's coming from. But so besides rap, hip hop, do you like any other styles of music, or is that kind of all you listen to?
Well, my wife, I kind of was already listening to them. I listened to screamo rock.
Okay.
And then like heavy metal.
Okay. So your wife's into heavy metal and you're into hip hop. That's quite a mix there.
It's quite a mix, but we got the same faith.
Well, that's cool. That's good. How long have you guys been together, you and your wife?
We got married last year.
Okay. And how long did you know each other before that?
We've known each other ever since we're in school. But
okay.
But other than that, I love my wife.
Yeah.
I love my wife dearly.
That's good, man.
She's the world to me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I just prayed to God over and over and over to bring me somebody to help me escape out of my imprisonment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. Wives are a blessing.
She helped me escape from people I called grandparents. They were keeping me back from getting a job.
Mm.
And I wanted to live my life and progress in my life. And they're like, well, what about us? And it's like, you have your kids.
Right. Yeah, that's hard. Family drama is hard.
It is.
Yeah. Is she your age, about 20, 24?
No, she's actually 18. We're 5 years apart.
Oh, okay. A little bit younger. Yeah, my wife's about 3 years younger than me, too. So she was 15 when we met. I was 18. She was 15 when we first met. So her parents weren't real thrilled with me in the beginning either. So yeah, but the time goes on and people, my in-laws like me now just fine, so we have a good relationship.
Well, I will admit though that they weren't ready to see their daughter go.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because she just graduated out of high school.
Right. Yeah, that is young, I get it. I understand, because I can see the perspective from both sides now, right? I can see it from being the boyfriend / husband, and I can also see it from being the father, right? Because my oldest, like I said, is 25. She's married now, but then I also have a 15-year-old daughter still at home, and it's getting to that age now where the boys are starting to come around, right? And starting to notice her and stuff. And it's just like, ooh, it's like, come on now, so it's both, right? You gotta protect your little girl, but at the same time, you gotta allow her to grow up. And, when she gets, not right now, she's only 15, but eventually she's going to be 18, 19, and that's when you got to start kind of, at some point I'm going to have to be okay with whoever she chooses to marry, right? So, but
well, I figure, if I ever had a girl, to be honest with you, I'm actually, if I had a girl, I would not be ready to see her bringing home boys.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's rough, man. It is. But see, the thing is though, you will be. By the time you get there, you will be. You know, you don't think that right now because you don't even have one yet, and the first one's going to be a boy, like you said. So, you know, but maybe your next one will be a little girl, man.
Yeah. But you know, I'm going to train my kids to protect family.
Yes, that's good, man. That's awesome. And so since you had a boy first, you'll have him be the, you know, all the rest of your kids will have an older brother, you know, so that's awesome.
So, sorry, the church I go to, we go off into a lot of rabbit trails. So,
yeah, no
back
problem.
to the heavy metal. So
oh, right. Yeah, so let's talk about that. Do you have any bands in that genre that you really like?
I am really into Fallen in Reverse.
Okay, that's a new band for me because somebody just turned me on to them and I just started listening to that, so I'm brand new.
Was it my mom?
No, it wasn't, but she mentioned it though. She did mention it, and I think I said the same thing to her, that it was like, oh, that's a new band. But there was one song she mentioned that meant a lot to her. I forgot the name of it. I wrote it down. But there was a song that she was like, oh, this song really impacted my life. You know?
Mm-hmm.
So,
I mean, did you know that Ronnie Radke, the lead singer of the band, he actually would occasionally make rap songs that were his own solos?
I didn't, but the few Falling in Reverse songs I've heard, he is rapping. There's rap in there.
So he made this song called What Up Earth, and it's all about how his life was growing up.
Mm. It's a good one.
Huh?
Is it a good one?
Yeah, it is. It's basically about how he had to get a full-time job and take care of his baby brother.
Okay.
Because his father walked out and his mother, I think, overdosed.
Yeah, see, that's unfortunately that is common sometimes, you know. Mm-hmm.
But you know, the very first band he actually was a part of was actually called Escape the Faith.
Okay. Sounds like a religious name.
It's not really a religious band, but I can see where you'd see that. It sounds like a religious name.
Well, it sounds like he's leaving. He's escaping the faith. It almost sounds like an anti-religious name, you know?
Well, it's funny you say that because the first album that they made was actually Ronnie's last album he made with the band before he went to jail.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And then you see, this is actually very important because between that time period, Escape the Fate went out of their way and actually got a new singer, and that kind of made Ronnie a little mad.
Oh, so they're still a band today?
Yeah, they're still a band today.
Oh, okay. Just have a different singer.
Yeah, they have a different singer, and Fallen in Reverse and Escape the Fate would always clash because Ronnie was mad at them because they went out and got a new singer instead of waiting for him to get out.
Oh, I got you. So he went to jail and they got a new singer while he was in jail.
Yeah.
Is that what oh, that would have ticked me off too, man. I would be like, dude, that's funny. But the question is, what's more popular today, Falling in Reverse or Escape the Faith?
I don't know. Falling in Reverse is actually really, really popular.
Right. That's what I mean. So I feel like he started another band and he showed him anyway because he's like, hey, you guys shouldn't have got rid of me because now I'm better than you are, you know?
But you know, I will say this though is I respect him the same way I respect Eminem.
Okay. So in what way, like you respect?
I respect Ronnie Radke the same way I respect Eminem.
Okay.
Because you know, from the sounds of it, it kind of seems as if they struggled the same.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you relate to them at all? Like, do you like? Is that why? Like, do you feel a connection there?
Well, I do, because
Okay.
my father left my mom at a very young age.
Okay.
And that's where the relation between me and Eminem actually really compared.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I'm kind of curious. So, listening to NF, did his song "How Could You Leave Us" made you cry?
Oh my gosh, yes. Totally. I can't even listen to it ever without. I mean, I even made the statement one time, if anybody can listen to that song and not cry, they're heartless. Like there's something wrong with them. Like that is the most emotional song I think I've ever heard in my entire life, especially the end where he's actually crying in the song. It's like, oh man, it's brutal, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a man. Yeah, have you heard the song Nate off of The Search?
I think I have.
It's where he's the present him is talking to the young him, telling him what's going to happen in the future.
Mm-hmm.
It's awesome. But he talks about that. He talks about that's where he says about that song and about his mom and the whole deal.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a good one. So
I will admit that I love NF's intro 3.
Mm-hmm. I like all the intro songs. I think they're all really cool.
Well, you see, I like the intro 3 because it actually really shows you what he battles with every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I don't know if anybody knows, but NF actually has a major anxiety problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. We saw him live once. Have you ever seen him live?
I've never seen him live.
Okay. We saw him live on the Search tour. We saw him in Portland, Oregon on the Search tour. And he seems very uncomfortable on stage. Like you really get the impression that he would much rather be sitting in the studio writing and recording music than he would performing it in front of people. You know what I mean? Like he seems very uncomfortable with an audience,
Well, that's because he's kind of like me and my wife. We don't like talking to people.
Yeah. Yet here you are talking to a complete stranger for 3 hours on a podcast.
Well, this is a little different than actually having to go interact with people.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's true. So,
because I don't know if you realize how much energy that drains out of you when you have to go interact with other people.
Yeah. Well, especially if you have anxiety, I struggle with anxiety in my whole life. And I mean, I totally get it. Like I don't like there's certain situations that I don't want to be in because they just cause me way too much anxiety,
Like if I go in a place where there's a whole lot of people and my wife starts squeezing my hand, I'm like, yep, this is not the place we need to be.
Yeah, you're like, oh, it's time to go. Yeah. Yeah. My wife doesn't like big crowds either. She doesn't like to be in crowded areas.
Yeah.
A lot of people. For me, it depends on the people. Like, it's not just like like I'm fine in big crowds of people. Like I can be at a big Christian festival with thousands of people everywhere, no problem. But if I'm like in the middle of LA and I'm walking down the street and there's just like people everywhere and they're kind of scary, then that's where I start to get anxious, right? I'm like, oh, I don't know what these people are going to do. I don't know what they're going to say. I don't know what's going to happen,
Well, I'd imagine just living in California must be pretty hard because like I've been, because there's on TikTok there's people who film videos of all the homeless people on the streets.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, having to like walk by and see that every day must be hard because like you don't know if these people are gonna mug you or steal your stuff.
Right. Yeah, and that's mostly in the big cities. That's like LA and San Diego and San Francisco, right? Some of the bigger ones. But like where I'm at, it's not. I mean, it's a big city, but it's not like LA, you know. But we do have a homeless problem here for sure. Just like all the big cities in California, but
not quite as bad as LA.
No, not as bad as LA and San Francisco and places like that, which is a bummer because those growing up here, like San Francisco used to be my favorite city. I used to love visiting San Francisco, but I wouldn't, there's no way I would go there with my kids now and like walk around the streets, you know, no way.
I honestly would never want to go to San Francisco.
Yeah.
For one reason.
Yeah.
That's because Nancy Pelosi lives in San Francisco.
So you're are you a big Nancy Pelosi fan then?
No, I don't like Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah, she's a piece of work. I think she's too old now. She should be retired at this point, I think.
No, what really gets me is that they made a whole entire documentary about Nancy Pelosi because she talked back to Donald Trump and was sassing back to him because
she ripped up his address or whatever. Remember that?
Yeah, and like people, and what gets me is that they were pretty much patronizing her like actions and everything. I'm like, people, this is a federal crime. Right. Because like, I mean, I don't know if people realize, but ripping up court documents or like a speech given from the president, that is a felony.
Right. And she should have lost her job for that if you ask me, but of course not. Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's unfortunate. But yeah, so well, let's use that to springboard into some politics. What do you think? You ready?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So obviously you follow politics somewhat because you know who Nancy Pelosi is.
Well, yeah. Let's just say that when Donald Trump like got in the office, I was full board on politics.
Okay, I think a lot of people got into politics at that point. That was kind of I think Trump brought a lot of people in either because they liked him or because they hated him, one or the other, right?
To be honest with you, the biggest regret I have is actually not getting a job when Trump was in office.
Job like on his campaign, you mean, or?
No, as in like get a job anywhere here.
Oh, you mean because the job market was booming then, and now it's the unemployment rate's higher now, is your point?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. He definitely. I think he definitely helped with that situation. You know, much more than Biden.
Well, that and like the living situation that we were back then was not as bad as today. Right.
Yeah, but of course, you know, Biden would blame Trump for that, right? Right. He'll say that he inherited a bad economy.
You know, the funny thing is that like I love. Because, you know, I was watching Fox News and they showed this little video clip of Joe Biden saying that, well, if Donald Trump was in this room, I would punch him. And it's like,
oh, yeah, I remember that.
And it's like, guys, why aren't you arresting him? Because that's a threat.
Right. Exactly. Right. Well, no, Biden's not. I mean, we're seeing everything right now with the laptop and the cocaine at the White House, right, and everything that's happening. He's not going to get arrested for anything. Like it's just not going to happen.
Okay. I don't know if you follow Tucker Carlson.
I do. Yeah.
Anyway, he managed to get the flash drive that was on Hunter Biden's laptop. And
yep.
Basically, this is what made me crack up laughing is basically, all the pictures was Hunter Biden having sex with like all these Russian hookers.
Right.
In Russia.
Right.
And you know what's even the funniest thing about it? He used his dad's credit card.
Yeah. What an idiot. It's like, dude, think, man. But if he's all on drugs, he's probably not thinking anyway. So,
He was. I mean, why do you think that every time when they tell Hunter, oh well, you need to take a pee test, he always turns it down?
Right.
Because he knows he ain't gonna come up clean.
No way. Right. Well, and that's what's so funny about the cocaine at the White House. Well, we have no idea whose this could be. It couldn't possibly be the president's son, who's a known cocaine addict. Come on.
The funny thing though is that he actually doesn't do cocaine. It's actually crack. He would actually smoke.
Is that what it is? Okay.
Crack. Okay. He actually was a really, really bad crack addict. And they've been trying for years to get him some help, but he just kept on going back to it, relapsing.
Right. Yeah.
They had a whole entire documentary on Hunter Biden. I don't know if you have Fox Nation.
No.
Okay, Fox Nation, they had a documentary on there, and Fox Nation, I think, is probably $10 a month.
Oh, okay. Is that a channel?
No, it's an app you download on your Roku TV, and it's
gotcha. Okay.
And it's Fox News, and you get all the exclusive documentaries and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we had it for a while. Tucker Carlson had a lot of documentaries on there.
Yeah.
Because I really love Tucker Carlson.
Yeah, he's got some good stuff to say for sure.
Because not only did he expose a lot of people, but he exposed the corruption in Chicago.
Mm. With what?
With how bad it was. I mean, did you know that Chicago right now, they have no police? You know why?
No.
Because if somebody committed a murder, the police would go arrest them, and then they would be released the same day.
Right.
And
yeah. So why does anybody care about committing crimes if you're just gonna get released? Right? Who cares?
Yeah. So. Okay. Since you live in California, I gotta ask.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
What do you think of Gavin Newsom?
I am not a fan of Gavin Newsom. Yeah, I'm a conservative, so I mean, I don't know if I've ever met a conservative that was pro Gavin Newsom. Even most of the liberals I know are not fans of Gavin Newsom. So, yeah, we tried to recall him. We had a whole recall thing, but he got past that, unfortunately. Which is a bummer because we had some really good guys that were in the running that didn't make it, like Larry Elder. I really like Larry Elder. He was really cool.
Yeah, but, he was trying to replace Gavin Newsom, wasn't he?
Yes. Yeah, in the recall effort. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, for sure. So that was unfortunate, but apparently they keep saying he's going to throw his hat in the ring for the presidential bid in 2024, but that would be a nightmare. That'd be worse than Biden, I think, if we got that guy in there.
Who?
Newsom.
I don't know. The governor for Florida says he wants to run for president.
No, I like him. I like Ron DeSantis. Yeah.
My brother, that lucky sucker, actually got to go to Florida on a free paid trip by the church.
So cool.
Tampa, Florida for 2 weeks.
For what? For like a missionary trip or something?
Yeah, something like that. But what they do is that they go there and then they pray for all the homeless people on the road.
Oh, okay. Nice, man. When was that? Recently?
Yeah, it happened he came back last week.
Okay. Wow, he went in July and in Florida in July. That's crazy, man. That's I was in Florida in July a couple years ago and I just about died. The humidity and the heat, and it's nasty. Florida, I love Florida, but that heat is brutal.
Well, I'd imagine you get pretty massive heat waves in California.
Well, it's funny where the spot where I'm at. So my daughter lives about 3 hours south of us, and they get really hot there. Like they're in the 90s today, been in the 90s all week this week. And we usually stay pretty much in the 70s year round where I'm at. So it's we live we're coastal. We live, near the beach. We're very, that's why people want to live here, because the weather's so nice almost the entire year. We'll get a heat wave. We'll have a couple of 100-degree days occasionally, but it's not very often. Even getting up in the 80s and 90s isn't very common. So, and in winter, we might get in the 30s overnight, maybe sometimes, but most of the time, wintertime, we're between, low 50s and high 60s. So it's just like, yeah, it's paradise as far as weather goes, but.
Man, weather, California to me was famous because of Death Valley.
Yeah, I've been through there. That's
never want to go back, do you?
No. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, there's a couple places, like if you go inland from where we are, places like Bakersfield and Fresno and like places like that that get pretty nasty in the summertime. So
Fresno, California, a lot of people actually talk about that place.
Yeah, that's a pretty big city. But yeah, it's not. I don't like it there, but my cousin's family is all from there, so he doesn't like it either.
I can tell you one place I do not like. You know what that is?
Zimbabwe.
Seattle, Washington.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I do not like it there.
No. How come?
Because it's always raining, and
oh yeah.
And I don't know if they taught you this in school, but like, did you know that depending on the weather, it actually changes your moods?
Oh yeah. Well, that's why they say like in places like Seattle, the suicide rate is higher. Yeah, there's something you get from the sun that gives that if you're missing it, you get depressed.
Now, I don't know if this is true, but they told me that the reason why it rains in Seattle so much is because the clouds can't go over the mountain.
Oh yeah. Oh man. Yeah. It's like all the big cities, Seattle, Portland, all those places. I used to love walking around those cities, but now with, like you were saying before about all the homeless and the drug problems and all that stuff, I don't know. It's just not the same anymore. I got a cousin that lives up in Washington, and he's about 3 hours from Seattle, so he's not right there. But we've been to Seattle. He's closer to Portland than he is to Seattle, so we do spend a lot of time in Portland. But yeah.
But to be honest with you, I can't knock homeless people because I almost was homeless myself.
Yeah.
Because I worked for everything I had, and I thought I had it all, and then all suddenly a house fire happened, and I lost everything.
Your house burned down?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, dude. That's brutal. What caused it?
A chimney fire.
Oh no.
I mean, it went up so fast. I tried throwing water at it and everything, and the wind caught up, and it already started some coals on the wood, and once the wind blew, it was untamable.
How long ago was this?
It was like 2 or 3 years ago.
Okay. So you weren't married yet?
No.
Okay.
But I will tell you something. That's one thing I'll never forget.
Yeah, I bet. I bet, man. So you guys just had a fire going in your fireplace, and the fire started in your house because of that?
Well, you see, the thing was, so we always have someone watching the fire at night. They built the stove up, I think, a little too hot, and there either was cardboard rubbing up against the chimney, and the box must have caught fire.
Oh, wow. So what? You just had to get everybody out of the house, and then the whole place went up, or what?
Well, basically what happened is I climbed downstairs because I was sleeping in the attic. I climbed downstairs and I got everything, left all my stuff because I figured, I don't need it. I could just rebuild what I had.
Yeah. Yeah. Were you the only one in the house at the time?
No. You see, I was living with these people that I called my grandparents.
Oh, okay.
Well, the reason why I call them these people is because they're really my stepdad's parents.
Okay.
And my mom got a divorce, so she's no longer with him anymore, so they're not really related to me by any relation.
Right. Are you still in contact with them though, or?
No, not really.
Okay. Yeah.
To be honest with you, people who say their family hurt you the most.
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, sometimes for sure. That's unfortunate.
Because the funny thing is that me and my wife recently got married, and then we wanted more room, and they were trying to move us around in the house, and we're like, we got to get a house of our own, so we just moved out.
Yeah.
And now we live in a camper trying to find a house. Okay.
Oh, you're currently living in a camper?
Yeah.
Okay. Is it a mobile? Is it like a mobile home? I'm not a mobile home, but like an RV kind of thing?
No, it's a camper that you can hook up to a truck.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. I mean, my wife wants to do that now. She wants to sell our house and get something that has wheels on it and just travel the United States and live in different places.
Well, it's not really that bad of an idea as long as you can afford it.
Right. Well, that her idea is to sell the house and take because we have a lot of equity in the house because we bought when it was really low, like 12 years ago. And now the prices have gone up so much that we actually have a lot of money we would get if we sold. So she'd want to sell that and use the money to buy an RV, just flat out cash, not have a payment, so that's where I'd be calling Justin and be like, hey man, give me a good deal on a good RV, so.
Well, to be honest with you, right now in California, houses are selling for $1 million.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even if you bought an RV, you'd still have a lot of money left.
Would have some left over. Our house would not go for $1 million, I know, but it's like in the high, it's like 700,000 or so probably is what it's marketed at. But when we bought it for 285. So, I mean, that's almost tripled, what it was. So that's not bad.
So how big would you say your house is?
It's 2,200 square feet. It's 4 bedrooms. When we first moved in here, all 4 of our kids were still at home. So in fact, my wife was pregnant with our 4th, our last child, who's now 13. And so that's one of the reasons why we needed a 4-bedroom. Because at the time, dude, we were living in a 2-bedroom, little house in low-income housing. And we had 3 kids, and my wife was pregnant. So me and my wife had the master bedroom with our 2-year-old daughter living in there with us. And then the other room was shared by my older son and my older daughter. And we're like, okay, now we're going to have another baby. It's like, where are we going to put that thing? It's like, there's just no way. So we ended up renting this house. We started off renting it. And then after 2 years of that, they sold it. They had to sell it. And they said, oh, we're going to give you first option to buy it if you want to buy it. And me and my wife were like, there's no way we're going to have enough money to buy this house. But we met with the lender, and then all this stuff happened and fell into place. I think it was God pushing that along for sure. And then we were just in awe, are you kidding me? We're homeowners. We never thought we would be homeowners, so.
Well, something that's interesting. I see this post on Facebook and it really makes you think, right?
Mm-hmm.
You see the word can't, and
then
you see this figure come, and it's Jesus taking the T out of can't, so it's can.
Nice. Yep. Yeah, for sure, man. if he's the one doing it, then I'm all there, man. Absolutely. That's and I think that's what happened. I think that he took a situation that was for us seemed impossible, and he said nothing's impossible with me, right? So it was like, and he just we're like, and we weren't even expecting it. We had kind of just decided from the get-go, yeah, this just isn't going to happen. We're just gonna have to find somewhere else to live. We're going to move out of state where it's cheaper or whatever. And then God said, nope, you're staying there, and then there you go. And we've been here ever since. So
yeah, it's crazy though. Is so what part of our conversation are we still on?
We're technically in politics right now, but
Okay.
We can go anywhere you want, man.
Well, I was going to get into faith.
Go for it. Let's do it, and then we'll circle back to politics maybe after that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because the more I read the Bible, and then I'm looking into Abraham and Isaac and all this, and I'm like, where do they find all this faith?
Right.
This faith, it's unlike anything you've ever seen.
Right. Right, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, right. Especially with Abraham, go kill your firstborn son. It's like, what? I feel like if I felt like God told me to do that, I'd probably check myself into a mental institute or something. I'm hearing voices, or whatever. But,
well, technically, believe it or not, the world wants to make people think that all Christians are crazy.
Right. We'll just watch any TV show or any movie that has a Christian in it. They're always the psycho that's, in their basement, burning crosses and doing crazy things. And, they're always the serial killer. Right.
Well, believe it or not, it's actually funny because, they make Amish people turn out to be such horrible people.
Right. Yeah. These quiet, keep to themselves people are always, the bad guys in the movies sometimes, Yeah.
What's the funniest thing ever is that I live in a small town over in Idaho, and we have every once in a while we'll have a few Amish men walk in the bar.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And it's like, what?
Oh man. See, if I saw that, what I would do is I walked over and say, hey, you want to be on my podcast? I'd be like, hey, I want to talk about this stuff. Wait a minute. I would love to talk to an Amish guy on here. I've never actually met an Amish person as far as I know, but I've always been fascinated by their kind of
lifestyle.
Yeah. Just saying no electricity, no, doing everything on their own. It's kind of neat.
Well, they do rely on some electricity nowadays.
Oh, do they?
It's because they have to use tractors to grow their crops.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know if you knew this, but I didn't even know this. Did you know that the Amish make their own butter that they sell at the stores?
I have heard that. Yeah. I actually heard that. What's that? Weird Al?
Mm-hmm. Weird Al Yankovic.
Yeah. Whenever he did Amish Paradise. Did you ever hear that song? That parody of the cool. Yeah. He talks about that churning butter in that, in that video. Oh, man. That's awesome.
Well, I will be honest that I never thought I would have so much fun being on a podcast.
Well, good, man. That's good to hear. Yeah, it's pretty laid back. It's people are nervous sometimes, and I'm like, you don't got to be nervous. It's pretty, pretty laid back. So let's go back to let's go back to politics, and then we'll jump into the spiritual stuff at the end, and I want to get your story on that too, and kind of hear where you're coming from there.
Okay.
So would you say with politics, do you lean more left or more right, or do you kind of see yourself as a conservative versus a liberal, or?
I'm more conservative Republican.
Okay.
I don't know if that's
Yeah, no, that's what I was asking. But do you feel like Is that something you've kind of like your whole life you've kind of felt that way, or was it more recent, like as an adult, you kind of started thinking about it?
Well, to be honest with you, when I was a kid, I never really cared much about politics until when I got older, and everybody's like, "Oh yeah, all this has to do with your future."
Right. Yeah. Did your family members, were they like, did you grow up listening to people talk about politics often, or?
Believe it or not, my grandfather would always talk crap about Obama.
Oh yeah. So then your grandpa was a conservative, then probably Republican.
Yeah, he was a conservative, and the funny thing is that every time when he would come over, we'd always hear him complain about how Obama's turning the country upside down.
Right. And it's funny because it's not funny, but I mean, it was something like that. It seemed to be that the criticism would be if anybody ever said anything about Obama like that, the backlash would be, oh, that's just because you're racist, right? You're just saying that because he's black. It's like, no, it's because he's saying stupid things. It has nothing to do with. It could just easily been a white guy up there, and I would have said the same thing, right? I mean, it's just you say something stupid, you say something stupid. I don't care what color your skin is,
Well, I mean, what's funny though is that the real reason of why Obama got to be president was the fact that he was black, and he would be considered as the very first black man to be president.
Yeah. I don't know if I'd say that's how he got in, but I definitely know there's a lot of people that made that statement. Like I know Samuel L. Jackson, the actor, was one of them. He flat out said, I voted for him because he's black. And I'm like, as soon as he said that, I thought to myself, you shouldn't be allowed to vote, right? Like, I mean, you should never, and I've said this lots of times, but you should never vote for somebody because they're black, and you should never vote for somebody or you should ever not vote for somebody because they're black. Like that should be totally irrelevant, right? Like it shouldn't matter to me. Like I don't care what gender, I don't care what color, I don't care what race, ethnicity. All I care about is how good you're going to run the country, Well,
the one thing I kind of was hoping is that there would be more people that were like Donald Trump. Come in and not be a politician, but be a businessman.
Right. So Trump's kind of like we were talking about Tom MacDonald, like how he doesn't have to answer to anybody as far as like Tom MacDonald doesn't have a record label telling him you can't say this, you can't say that. Trump was kind of the similar, right? Because he's already a billionaire. He wasn't owned by anybody, to where I think every president we've had before him, they had to be careful, right? Because they were like, oh, this guy is my backer. He's the one giving me all the money, so I can't tick him off. Trump's like, I don't care who I tick off.
You know what's a bunch of bull crap? Did you know that the Democrats forced Donald Trump to retire because they said that he shouldn't be running the business and be president at the same time?
Oh, retire from his work things, you mean?
Yeah, because did you know that he owns he owns the Dolphin Hotel?
Oh yeah?
Yeah. He owns all the Dolphin hotels in America.
Yeah, I know he had some hotel. I know there's like Trump Towers or Trump. Is it Trump Tower? Is that what it's called? The one in New York?
Mm-hmm.
I think so. Yeah, that's one of the big ones. But so you sound like you're a fan of Trump. So are you hoping that he'll be the president again in 2024?
Well, yeah. I'm really, really hoping so. I actually follow Trump a lot. Matter of fact, I liked his kids too.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I can't remember this one. One of his kids, I remember, said that he was going to run for his dad.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, is it Donald Jr.? No, not. Is it Donald Jr.? What's the other one's name? There's the two older sons. One's Donald Jr. and one
Eric Trump.
Eric. There you go. Yep, that's the other one. Yeah, and then his daughter, Kushner, right? She's married to Jared Kushner. They're pretty involved in politics too. But yeah, so do you, obviously if it was him and Biden going against each other for 2024, you'd obviously vote Trump, as would I. But is there anybody in the running that could take the place of Trump in the election? You know what I'm saying? Like, we have to go through the primaries, and then we have to have one Republican, one Democrat running against each other for the presidency. Is Trump the guy you want in there, or is there any other Republicans like in the country today that you think would be better in there to run for the Republican?
Well, don't get me wrong, I love Trump, but he's getting a little too old to be president.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm with you, man. Yes.
I would say I would vote in Ron DeSantis.
Okay. Yeah.
Or even his son, because his son has the same ideas as Trump.
Right. Trump's son?
Eric.
Yeah.
Eric Trump.
Okay. Yeah. So you do like Ron DeSantis? That's one of your. Okay. Yeah. See, that's the guy I would go for. I hope he gets the primary because.
Oh man.
I think he'd be a great president.
You know something that really made me laugh? Okay. Remember when the Democrats were trying to make all the kids stay home? Right?
During COVID, you mean?
Yeah. Well, they were doing this, and then they're going to still have people pay taxes. And you know what's funny is that Trump was catching on to this, and he's like, well, if they're not going to go to school anymore, then give the taxpayers their taxes back.
Right.
And then they opened school again.
Yeah, right. That was enough, right? They're like, we're not going to do that then. Yeah. See, and that's the kind of stuff I do like about Trump. I like how he's smart enough to see through the facade and say, okay, if you're going to do that, then we're going to do this, knowing that they're going to go back on it. If he said that, he's like, oh, forget it then. We're not going to go there then, Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, if it's Trump Biden for 2024, I'm obviously going for Trump, because I think Biden is. So you talk about guys that are too old. I mean, I think Trump is too old, but at least Trump is still sentient. I mean, he usually has his cognitive, stuff there. Biden doesn't even know where he is half the time, it seems like. So,
but the one thing I like about Trump, and you know what that is? I don't really tell a whole lot of people this, but I like Trump because he's one person that can't be bought or paid for.
Right. No, exactly. That's the point I was making back to the Tom MacDonald thing, right? Somebody like that. And I think that's why the Democrats are so scared of him, because he just does what he's going to do, and there's really nothing they can do about it. And they don't like that, because the whole system is kind of set up to where, if we don't like what so-and-so's doing, we'll just put some money over here. We'll just kind of scratch someone's back over here. It's like they couldn't do that, right? They couldn't do that with Trump, because Trump's like, nope, I don't need anything from you,
But you see, I studied a lot of government in school, and I know what that is that like, so how it works out, because I studied a little bit of the politics and I got the understanding of it a little bit, is that when the Congress people want something done, they go up to the president with a little bit of money, and then they're like, oh, well, here's a bribe, and do this for me.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And Trump would be like, no, don't need it. Right. I've already got all the money I need, Yeah, for sure.
But the thing that really ticks me off when they forced him to retire is, look at all the other presidents that had like a major business and still ran for president.
Yeah.
Teddy Roosevelt had a huge business.
Yeah.
But you want to know something that's even more interesting, is that the very first president, George Washington, he did not get paid one penny.
Right.
And you want to know something that's really interesting?
Mm.
Did you know that Donald Trump did not get paid for his presidency? When they sent him the money, he just sent it right back.
Oh, really? Oh man, I wish you would have sent it to me. I'll take it. Oh man, yeah, that's pretty funny. I mean that's but what? So okay, so what to you are some of the downsides of Trump?
I don't know. The downsides, well, I think the downsides of Trump was, yeah, he said he was going to get the wall done. Yes, he did. He was fighting against Congress the whole time and everything. But, I think he probably could have went with a different strategy and do it himself.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, he had enough money to do it too.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, but then there's a whole thing where he said he was going to make Mexico pay for it. It's like, see, that's the kind of stuff I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't know. That to me, Trump's mouth a lot of the time was the downside of Trump. Like he just said too many things that he probably shouldn't have said. So, but and that's why I like DeSantis, because I think DeSantis holds a lot of the same policies, but he doesn't act immature like Trump does sometimes, So I think
the interesting thing about Trump that makes it like really, really interesting is that yeah, he says what he wants, but he doesn't always think about what he has to say.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It just flies out of his face. It's just whatever's on his mind. Blah, blah. It's like verbal diarrhea. It's just out everywhere. So,
but I mean, maybe he just can't help it.
Well, I think it is part personality, and I think it's the way he grew up, the way he was raised. He cannot take an insult without retaliation, right? If somebody says something about him, he has to go back at him. He can't just be like, whatever, I'll take the critique and whatever. No, it's like, no, I got to get on the news and say, you're this and you're that. And, it's just.
The new generation, the generation that he grew up in, he grew up in an era where everyone said what they wanted to say.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone had an opinion and they weren't afraid to be honest.
Right.
As we are today, because we're like, oh, well, I don't want to say this because it might get canceled.
Right. Exactly. Yes. I just had, and I totally understand, but I had somebody scheduled a couple of days ago to do a podcast, and they contacted me and they said, hey, I hate to do this to you last minute, but I don't feel comfortable talking about these things so the world can say, because this person is in a position where they're kind of well known, right? I wouldn't say famous, but they have a platform and they have a lot of people that are following them basically. Mm-hmm. And he was worried about that. And he said, I don't want to put my views on politics and spirituality out there for the world, because and that's what's sad. And I told him, I said, dude, I totally understand. I'm really disappointed, but I totally understand, because unfortunately we live in a world where you can't have an opinion anymore without a fear of something happening to you because of that opinion. It's just whether losing your job or getting death threats on your family or whatever all these people deal with all the time that are in the higher up positions. It's sad.
Well, believe it or not, but I don't know if but certain people, if they reach a certain level of fame and they know secrets of the government, well, they could be afraid that if they spill a little too much information that the government might stage their death and make it look like an accident.
Right. Like Epstein, right?
Yeah. Did you know that I watched this documentary on the White House?
Mm-hmm.
And it says that if you just go do sightseeing around the White House, there will be a black car that follows you and tries to run you off the road.
Oh, yeah?
stage your death as if it was accident.
Wow, that kind of makes me want to try that. To see if that would actually happen, you know?
But yeah, but they do it for like a certain amount of time.
Okay.
So they follow you for certain like ways away to make sure that you're like don't pose a threat against the White House.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Now the one thing that kind of ticks me off that Joe Biden made possible is that now the FBI, like if I wanted to start my own business and I had my own view and my own honesty and all that, that it can make me go on the terrorist watch list.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they're making innocent civilian Americans being put on the terrorist watch list.
Okay. Wow.
You know, that's the true reason why I quit watching politics, because it was just stressing me out.
Yeah, for sure. So let's kind of move away from like presidency and that kind of thing and get into some like policy issues. So what do you think is like the most crucial thing that's facing our country? Like, what do you think is the most important issue that needs to be dealt with in our country?
Well, if I were to tell you what's the most important policy that needs to be restored, well, for sure, having closed borders and restoring the law enforcement and actually funding the law enforcement, and then taking out these I don't know if they I don't know how like often you watch the news, but did you know that they're actually teaching our soldiers that go out overseas about gay marriage and all this and that?
Well, I saw Mark Milley, I think it was, that was talking about the intersectional stuff, right? Like saying we want to make sure we have a certain number of homosexuals in the like on purpose, like making sure that not just saying they can or can't be in, but saying we're going to purposely try to get a certain number of homosexuals, a certain number of transgender, a certain number of in the military, right? It goes back to that whole thing where like the airline, I think it was America. I think it was it American or United? I forgot which one it was, but they were saying they were going to make sure that more than 50% of their pilots were going to be minorities but anyway, so they had the thing where they were saying we're going to have a certain number of minority pilots, certain number of women pilots. And a bunch of us are sitting there going, I want the person most qualified to fly the plane. That's who I want. I don't care if they're man or woman. I don't care what ethnicity they are. I don't care. Just get me to my destination safely, right? So it goes back to that. So anyway, is that what you're talking about with the military, how they're trying to be more inclusive and bring more of that in there?
But you know something though? Yeah, I know you told me not to bring like presidency in, but you know.
Oh no, go ahead. I didn't say you couldn't. I just go for it.
You know, Donald Trump actually made a law against like transgenders joining the military. Now
I didn't know that.
I assume he must have a reason against that. A reason for that. Why he did it, you know.
What do you think his reason was?
It'd probably be a distraction. If like we went in, like if there was a war that broke out, it'd probably be a really good distraction. Be like, oh, I got shot in the leg. Oh, it hurts.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't even know how I feel about that. I guess my first question, if someone came to me like that, I would say how many, and I don't know the answer to this, but how many transgender people want to be in the military? I mean, is there a big push? I mean, is there a whole bunch of them that are like, I really want to be in the military, or is it like two people that are saying that, and then we have to do this big old thing for two people? You know, I really don't even know. I don't know the answer. I've never looked into that before, but it's interesting, you know.
But you know, the one thing that kind of irritates me is how gays try to glorify war by saying, "Oh, I bet I'd be pretty carrying this gun and marching myself off to war." And it's like you realize that when people go to war, they're coming back in caskets.
Right.
And it's like people don't do it because they enjoy it. People do it because they want to protect the country.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And that's a huge sacrifice to make, some of the videos that bring me to tears more than anything are the ones where there's a mom or there's a soldier that's been overseas for years. Right. And they come home and they see their wife and their kids or whatever for the first time. And it's just, I mean, I can't even imagine that. Like I'll take a trip somewhere for a week. I'll be away from my wife for a week. And it's just like, I'm so happy to be back with her after that. And I can't imagine what that would be like after like 3 years. Like, could you imagine being away from your wife for 3 years and then coming home to see her after 3 years? I mean, it's crazy, especially when there's kids involved. Like, you're not there for 3 years of your kid's life. I mean, that's a lot of growth, right? If they go from like 3 years old to 6 years old, they're running around and they're talking and they're, it's like all this stuff has changed, So my point is these guys they're giving up that sometimes, right? They're literally giving up time that they would have got to watch their children grow, so they can serve our country. And I think that's like the ultimate sacrifice for me, especially the ones that die. Because not only are they giving up that 3 years, they're giving up the rest of their lives. Like that little kid's never going to see their dad again, and that woman's never going to see her husband again, So it's brutal, man. Whew.
But, the thing that really irritates me the most is that when the man makes this decision to go away for like 3 or 4 years and come back and find out that his wife has been cheating on him with another.
Oh my gosh, dude. I know that's the worst thing. It's so bad. So bad. Yeah. I can't even imagine, because that takes that whole situation that I just painted out and it just destroys it. Right. Because you haven't seen your wife in 4 years. You're coming home to see her. You're so excited. And then you find out she's with somebody else. Dude, that'd be too much for me. I think. I don't think I can handle that.
Mm-hmm. What's the crazy thing though is I watched this one video where this guy, he came home to find out that his wife had been sleeping with a stepdad.
Oh boy.
And she was carrying his stepdad's child.
My gosh.
And that same day he came back, he served her with divorce papers. And then she was arguing how he was always gone and everything. And it's like,
yeah, gone in the military. Right. I mean, that's horrible, dude. That's like some Jerry Springer stuff right there.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's like you realize how dangerous this job is and how important it is.
Right.
If it wasn't for people like that who gave up and sacrificed everything for us, we wouldn't have freedom today. Right.
Oh, totally. Totally. What's the cliche phrase? Freedom isn't free, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like I talked to like a veteran who moved here from Texas, and he told me how he didn't like Washington because they didn't appreciate him. And he was one of those wounded veterans who actually on accident stepped on a landmine. And his face was all blown apart, and he had plastic surgery holding his face together.
This is the guy you were talking to?
Yeah.
Oh wow. It's rough.
It's really hard talking to him because like I can't help but to feel sorry for him and like feel his pain knowing that he won't be able to live the same again.
Right. Yeah. Right. And that's what's hard when there's so many people that kind of crap on our military and they say things that, I always think about, I mean, and again, I understand there was different views like on the war in Vietnam, right? Like a lot of Americans didn't think we should have been over there. And maybe there's some truth to that, but when they come home from the war and they get booed and they get stuff thrown at them and all this. I mean, I can't even imagine, like, even if you're against the war and you didn't think American troops should be over there, maybe a lot of those troops didn't think they should have been over there either. Right? I mean, it's not their fault. And here you are, like, treating them like they're the enemy or something. I just, that would be just heartbreaking for me, to deal with that.
You want to know the way to look at it? My grandfather was a veteran.
Okay.
And he basically explained to me that you have to take your orders and you have to proceed through your orders. And if you don't, you'll be punished.
Yeah. Yeah.
As in, if you don't follow your orders, you might find yourself serving time in military prison.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Once you sign those papers, man, and you join the military, they own you until you're discharged.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. 100%. But that's a sacrifice. I mean, that's what they willingly go into it, knowing that, right? It's not like that's a surprise. That's what you're doing when you're signing those papers. You're saying, look, I am giving myself to the United States military to do with me as they please until I'm discharged, and I guess you have to have some trust in the government to assume they're not going to do bad things to you or treat you harshly. And I'm sure that there's some instances where there was harsh treatment, and there's evil people in every organization there is. So,
I will be honest with you, is you want to know what's the messed up reality? Is that foreign countries treat their military with better respect than the U.S. does.
Yeah, could be. Yeah, I've never been in. Were you military? Did you go?
No.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I never did either. My dad was in the Army, and I have some friends that have been in the military, but I'm going to have, eventually towards the end of this season, I'm going to have somebody on that's actually in the military. So that's going to be interesting to talk to them about some of their own personal experience about being in there, But yeah, when I talk to people, I hear both. I hear some people say that the government's corrupt and the military sucks and they treated me so badly. And then other people are like, I have a friend, in fact, who was he just retired from the Air Force. He was lifelong. He went in pretty young and he did his time in there. Now he's retired and he's my age, he's 45. So it's not like most people don't retire till they're 65, 70, so, but yeah, he was.
I will be honest. I thought about joining the military.
Oh, did you?
And working, doing my time there until I retired, because I will say this: if you basically work the military life like a job and you retire in it, you never have to work again.
Right, exactly. And it might be hard to go through it to begin with, but once you get to that retirement age, you're like, hey, I got lots of life left. And I'm retired and I can just enjoy life. I can travel, I can raise a family, whatever the case is, so. Yeah, definitely. Could
you imagine the pay raise of some of those generals who are retired? They never have to work again.
No.
And their houses are like mansions.
Right. And I don't think they should have to work. I think we should take care of those people because, like you said earlier, they're putting it on the line for us, for our freedom. Mm-hmm. Right. I think they should be well taken care of, them and police. I feel the same way about police. I think that, we should take care of our police officers because they are literally putting their lives on the line every single day to protect us, Yeah. So.
My uncle was actually a police officer.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
He also was a detective too.
Oh, nice. Yeah. See, that's the cool stuff, right? That's where you see in movies and stuff where you're like, oh, this guy's trying to figure out crimes and murders and stuff. It's kind of neat,
Well, he never I talked to him a lot, but he never really actually talked about murders much. But he said that where he worked, because he worked, you see, he was a police officer. He was a patrol officer for I think 35 years down in Nampa, and then he did. He was a detective for like about 5 years.
Oh wow! And this is your mom's brother?
No.
Your dad's brother.
This is a stepdad's sister.
Oh, it's a female. Okay, gotcha.
No, stepdad's sister's.
Stepdad's
sister's husband.
Husband. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Sorry.
I was like, whoa, it's quite a little trail there.
It's quite a tongue twister.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome, man.
Oh.
All right. Well, anything you want to add into the political realm before we head off into spirituality, or are you?
I will admit that, the thing I enjoy about elderly people, I always wanted to meet a World War II veteran and just sit back and listen to their story, because I imagine that they have a lot to talk about.
Well, I'm sure, yeah, depending on what rank they were, all and that stuff, yeah, for sure. Yeah, you could probably arrange that, man. I'm sure you could find somebody probably in your own town that is a World War II vet.
Yeah.
They'll be old. They'll be like 100 years old.
It'd probably be really hard too.
Yeah.
To find one.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I find older people that have really interesting stories.
Oh yeah, for sure. Because they've lived stuff,
Like, yeah. I mean, I would like to find an older person and ask them, so what was it like to live through the Great Depression?
Right. Yeah. Or ask them, like, what was it like when they built Stonehenge? Or, what was it like when, like, Moses came down from the mountain with the tablets,
I don't think you'll find anybody that
old. Well, you never know, man, Oh, man, that's awesome.
Well, people don't live over 900 years old
anymore, right? They did in the Old Testament, some of them, but
a lot of people would have the conspiracy theory and say that the Bible was just a lie.
Yeah. Yep. So let's go into that then. Why don't you tell me? Let's first we'll talk about the Bible and stuff, but first I want to hear like your kind of like your. Do you consider yourself a Christian?
I was born and raised a Christian.
Okay. So you grew up in the church. You went to like youth group growing up and stuff, or?
Oh yeah, for the most part, I went to youth group.
Okay. Did you ever have since you grew up in the church and it's kind of like all you ever knew? Did you ever have a moment in your life where you felt like it was kind of like your moment, like where you kind of developed your own relationship with the Lord and you felt like you gave your life to Him, or has it kind of always been the same since the beginning?
Yeah. I actually had one of my own moments.
Okay.
When I got stuck. When a side by side on the mountain broke down in the middle of winter. And I think what happened was the tracks came off and the wheels scattered everywhere, and we didn't know if we were going to make it out.
Oh no.
Tonight or tomorrow.
How old were you at this point?
I think I was probably 18 or 19.
Okay.
And you really touch the God when you see that you're backed into a corner and you see no way out.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Right. Yeah. So you were driving and then your car spun out?
Well, what happened was the battery died, and the wheels didn't come off, but the battery died, and we had to walk about a mile to the house to get parts. Yeah, I had to carry a really heavy floor jack a mile back.
And this is in the snow?
Yeah, well, to be honest with you, the snow was at least about 3 feet deep.
Oh, dang.
Carrying a jack in 3 feet deep snow, it's not fun.
Were you by yourself, or were there other people in the car with you?
Well, there was other people.
Okay, but you were the one that got to go walk by yourself.
Yeah.
Okay.
I had to walk. I mean, just think, it was like 9 o'clock at night and there's no light, nothing. We had to walk.
Wow.
But luckily we actually knew our way back.
Yeah. So you walked and you got a jack, and then you came back, and then you just fixed the car and then got on your way, or what?
Yeah. Well, I can't remember what happened. My dad borrowed his sister's 4-wheeler, and the battery died on that. So.
Wow.
And then the battery died on the side-by-side. And then, so we had 2 rigs down. So we had and I think what happened is the axle came out of the hub on the side-by-side, and we had to go back, get the jack, bring it back, jack up the side-by-side, put the axle back in, drive it home, and then work on it.
Wow. So were you like scared at that point, which made you like call out to the Lord and kind of start praying, or like?
Well, I started silently praying, and I have gotten to that point where I thought there was no hope, or there was no hope for us.
Yeah.
Because it happened. It happened that whole year.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, when is it ever going to end?
Right. You mean you had a hard year, you mean?
Well, yeah, we had a hard year where everything was just breaking down.
Oh, okay.
And there was always something wrong, and we had to figure out the problem. And
right. But it was through those experiences that you feel like you grew closer to the Lord, because you kind of depended on him more during that time?
Well, yeah, because he made it possible.
Mm-hmm. Right. So when you look at circumstances like that, do you think to yourself that God caused those situations to happen so that you would grow closer to him, or do you think it was something else?
Well, the way I believe is that Satan causes tragedies to happen, but you see God. You see, when you put your faith in God, God comes into you and then makes it possible, because he shows you the way.
Yeah. Right. So you see it more as like the devil had something to do with your car breaking down, but God used that for a good thing? Yeah.
Because, my pastor told me this, that, when World War II happened, God allowed Satan to do that, so it would bring people closer to him.
Mm. Yeah. Well, I mean, because it's got to be, if we say something like, oh, the devil does it and God is not in control, right? Like as if God can't stop Satan from doing things, right? Because then that makes God not all powerful. So we have to say that he allows things like that to happen for whatever reason. Like sometimes we don't know the reason, but he has a reason, even if we don't know it at the time,
But something that's interesting is that, I go to church and my pastor had told me that, Satan, you can let Satan control you on your own will. You see, God gives you the power to not let it happen.
Mm. Yeah. Meaning like he gives you the power to stop it from happening, or?
Yes.
Okay.
And like they say that, like, basically from what you watch from your phone, your TV, your laptop and everything, it's all influences from Satan.
Yeah. Could be. I mean, God can use that stuff too, though, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But some of the sermons I see on TV anymore, You know, they're just doing it to get money.
Oh yeah, sometimes. Yeah, sometimes for sure. I mean, it's because it's definitely a moneymaker.
I was listening to this one sermon, and they're like, "Yeah, if you give me $6,000, I can make this happen."
Right. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. It's unfortunate because like earlier we were talking about how in movies and TV shows and stuff, right? The Christian's always painted out as the psycho, or the guy like that, right? And unfortunately, that's what a lot of America looks at pastors like the one you're talking about, and they're like, "Look at this guy's all about the money. Therefore, all Christians are all about the money." Right. And I think that's a wrong assumption to make, and to blanket all these other people based on one person's, because obviously not all pastors are that way, but it's just unfortunate because I run across a lot of Christians, a lot of people that are anti-Christian, and they'll tell me the reason why I don't believe in your God, Ryan, is because of this guy, and they'll show me some influence or some pastor, or they'll show me like Joel Osteen, or they'll show me some faith healer or something that proved phony. And I'm like, okay, but you're telling me that the actions of this man are going to cause you to say that Jesus wasn't real and that what he taught. And I'll say, like, this man is, what he's doing is the opposite of what Jesus taught. Right. So it's like, you can't take what the man's doing and say, therefore Christianity is false. It's like, no, that's ridiculous.
No, I can't remember what's the name of this one guy, but I remember some people have told me that, that they stopped believing because this guy believed he could perform the same miracles as Jesus.
Oh, yeah.
And he was famous for it too.
Mm-hmm.
And he was somebody, he was like Billy Graham. That's who it was.
Okay.
I don't know if you know who that is.
Oh yeah, I know Billy. I'm not sure if that's who you're thinking of though, because Billy Graham was he was like an evangelist. He did like the Billy Graham Crusades. You're talking about someone who would perform miracles like Jesus. That probably wasn't Billy Graham. Maybe Benny Hinn.
I don't know, but like people thought. Okay, some people have told me that Billy Graham had thought that he could predict the future. So like that. Or heal people with his prayers.
Interesting. Yeah, I never heard that one, but that's unfortunate, right? Because then you're going to have problems. Because obviously that's not going to happen. You can't. You say, I have the power to heal people with my prayers, and all it takes is one person who's got cancer to come up and ask you to pray for them. You pray for them, and they die. Right. I mean, obviously, but see, and whenever that happens, they come up with some excuse like, oh, well, that guy didn't have enough faith. That's why he died. It's his fault. If he had more faith, my prayer would have healed him, you see? And they put it back on the sick person.
I've heard of stuff like that, and, it cracks me up because, what if, he was helping the person and God said it was his time.
There you go. Right. Right. And that's a good point, because you say, well, pray for healing, and the guy dies. It's like, well, now he doesn't suffer anymore. Right. Yeah. Especially if he's a Christian, because now he's in the presence of the Lord, and now he's doing better than he ever has ever.
But you see, the whole problem with this is that everyone will try to twist the story into something else. Right. So then other people start believing this, and they're like, oh, well, he said it, so it must be true.
Right. And that's right. That's the problem with trusting people over, like, well, so let me ask you this then. Let's get into what are your thoughts on the Bible? Like, do you believe the Bible is true? Do you believe it's all true? Do you believe parts are true? Does it matter which translation, depending on it's true? Like, what's your view of Scripture, Christian Scripture?
Well, believe it or not, I believe the Bible is true about what it says, because we actually have found evidence that, like, Noah's Ark was built, and we also have evidence that where Moses went and where he, like, okay, I remember reading and hearing about this, that there was a part of where Moses was, and they were desperate in need of water, and God had made this mountain split to give them water.
The rock. Yeah, he hit the rock with his staff. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Well, they found that rock somewhere.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
How would they know, though? I mean, how would they know that was the rock?
I don't know. But you see, but you know what's funny, though, is that remember how Moses actually split the Red Sea?
Yes.
Well, they found chariots.
Yes.
At the bottom of the ocean.
Yes, that I did know. That's awesome. I love that.
So, I mean, like, how could the Bible be fake when we have all this evidence?
Mm-hmm. Right. Right. But do you see it as, so that's like the historical stuff that it would say, right? And then it backs up history because we find stuff like that, right? It's like the Bible says that the Red Sea was parted and that all the Pharaoh and all his army went through with chariots and it covered them up, right? So then we go to the bottom of the Red Sea. What do we see? Chariots, right? Like, so we see that. But I mean, do you think that like the whole Bible's true then?
Well, yeah. I mean, no, I don't believe the whole Bible's true because, like, I mean, just think about it. How many times do you think the Bible has been passed down from history and rewritten over and over and over again? Somebody had to have put like words into it, and somebody had to have like taken out and put and added and subtracted. Right.
So you think that's true? You think that it has been like, you think we don't have what was originally written then? Like you think things have been changed?
Well, I would say if we could get somebody who could translate the original Hebrew Bible, then we would all know.
Right. Well, I mean, so I can tell you this, like, and Justin can probably tell you some of this too, because he's studied down this road too. But like, you know, like the Old Testament's written in Hebrew, and then the New Testament was written in Greek, right? So like Justin and I both have spent a lot of time looking at the Greek text and looking at the translations in the English and that kind of thing, and I'm pretty convinced that what we have in the English is a very good representation of what the original Greek says for the New Testament. Like you're going to find slight things here and there, but none of it is anything like major, right? Like you're not going to see, like, you read the English Bible and it says, Jesus says, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but by me, right? Saying he's the only way of salvation, right? And then you go to the Greek and, oh wait, the Greek actually says that Jesus says there's many ways to heaven. You know, you're never going to find something like that, right? You'll find something like, well, wait, the Greek text put a the right here and the English translation didn't put a the. You know, like you find variations like that, but nothing. So for me, I'm pretty solid on like, I think we can completely trust the whole Bible, right? Like 100%. And I know a lot of people are like, dude, you're crazy. I can't believe you know, you would go that route. But it's usually because they don't like something it says. Like they read something and say, well, I don't like that, so I'm just going to pretend like that's not true, you know? So, well,
so I don't really know what church you go to, but
yeah, I go to Calvary Chapel right now. Yeah, okay. But we've been to lots of different churches, but right now we're at Calvary Chapel.
I will be honest with you, the church I go to, it is way different from any other church you went to.
The other churches you've been to, you mean?
No, the one I'm currently going to
is different than other ones you've been to.
Yeah, it's called the Nazarene.
Okay. Yeah.
And you know what's funny though is that like, so like if I ever got curious about certain other religions, they'll just break it down to me and see why their ideas won't work.
Right. And see, to me, that's the beauty of Christianity, is that it encourages people to attack it and try to prove it wrong, right? Because there's been so many people that have tried to do so and in the process became Christians, right? Like C.S. Lewis did that. He said, I'm going to set out to prove Christianity wrong. And he became a Christian. And then he became one of the most well-known, right, Christian authors of all time, right? So it's just, and I love that because a lot of other religions will say, oh, no, don't ask questions. Don't ask questions. Just believe what we tell you, you know? And it's like, Christianity says, no, go ahead, ask questions, you know, throw stones at it, throw knives at it, see what happens, you know. It's just like, I love that.
You know, the thing I like what's funny is that when you say, oh, well, there's many ways to get to heaven, right?
Right.
You know what that made me think of? That's really similar to what the Mormons believe in.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But I mean, so how would we say, like, if a Mormon came to you and they said, hey, I'm going to show you why Mormonism is the true way.
To be honest with you, that happens almost like every day.
Oh, okay. Okay. So how do you deal with, do you actually talk to them, or do you just tell them, get out of my face, see you later?
Well, you see, they don't come to me on my face.
Okay.
Or anything, mainly because we have like a cute, a golden retriever and like a English Mastiff.
Oh, okay. So you got big dogs guarding your property there.
Yeah.
Nice.
And what's funny though is that, you know, they target me on Messenger on Facebook.
Really?
Yeah, and they're like, yeah, the Mormon Church is so great and everything. Yeah, come to the Church of Jesus Christ, because that's their church.
Yeah.
And
so
they call.
Do they know you personally? How are they able to get you on Messenger?
Oh, they sent me a friend request. My brother was friends with the person, so I accepted it.
There you go.
And then they started spamming me with texts, be like, oh, hey, you should come to the Latter-day Saints. And I'm like,
right.
So is that a Mormon church?
Right. Yes. Yeah.
But you see, the thing is I don't argue with Mormons. I'd be like, look, I've been to your church before. I don't agree with what you believe in.
Right.
I understand that you believe differently. I'm not going to object against what you believe in and argue with you.
Right.
I'll just state what I believe right here, and you can be the judge.
Right. Well, I guess that's what I'm asking is, like, how you're obviously confident that Mormonism is not true and that Christianity, you and I's version of Christianity is true. So what makes you confident of that? In other words, like, how do you know the Mormons aren't right?
Well, you know, because Jesus had actually come to me in person and scared me into reading the Bible more.
Okay.
I mean, when you see a bright light and it's not being like made from your flashlight, then you know you're in trouble.
Yeah. When did that happen? Did that happen on the time your car broke down, or?
Well, I was living in the mountain and I was kind of curious and looking into stuff that I really shouldn't have. Because, you know, I really got into studying demonic possession.
Okay.
For a while.
Well, okay. So before you tell me about the end result of that, why don't you tell me a little bit about how you got into that to begin with?
Well, you know, how I got into it is I pretty much started watching The Exorcism, and then like I watched the Conjuring series. Mm-hmm. I haven't finished the Conjuring series, and then I got curious and started doing some more research on demonology, and Jesus came to me one day and scared me out of it.
Okay. So at the time where you were starting to look into demonology and that kind of thing, did you consider yourself a Christian at that point, and that you were just curious, or do you feel like you kind of fell away from the faith for a while, or?
I was curious.
Okay.
I believed in God, but you know, I think my anger was starting to get the best of me.
Okay.
Because, you know, I felt like he wasn't there, and then when he showed up, it was just like I wasn't expecting.
Right. Yeah. Well, that'll do it, man. I mean, that's but I mean, but back to the Mormons then. So the Mormons will tell you that they've had the same kind of experience, right? They'll tell you that they had a burning of the bosom. They've had an encounter with Jesus themselves, and Jesus has told them that Mormonism is the correct religion. So, I mean, how would you counter one experience against another experience?
Well, to be honest with you, I like the Christian church.
Okay.
And there's another reason why I don't like Mormons. Do you want? I told my brother this reason too, and I made it very clear.
Okay.
I was like, so I told him that, like, in order to become a member at the Mormon church, that you actually have to give them the first amount of your income or something like that.
Tithing, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And my brother was like, screw that.
Wow. Well, you know, a lot of Protestant Christian churches teach that too. I mean, it's not as mandatory maybe like it is in the Mormon church. It's like it's mandatory.
Well, they basically okay, get this. My brother came to me and said, well, I need permission from an adult figure to go to a Mormon church. And I'm like, why do you need permission to go to church?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's not a strip club.
Right. Is your brother Mormon?
No, he's Christian.
Okay. He's Christian. Okay, cool.
Well,
I didn't grow up in the church at all. I always believed in God. I was never an atheist. But I hated church. I hated Christians. I hated the Bible. I hated everything about all of it. I wanted nothing to do with it. I thought this whole idea that Jesus is the only way was so narrow-minded and one-sided. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. But I started going to youth group because there was girls there, right? And it was like certain girls that I went to high school with, or actually I think it started in junior high. And I'd be interested in a certain girl or whatever. And she'd be like, oh, why don't you come to youth group on Wednesday night? I was like, okay. So I'd go and I'd just be there just for her. I didn't care at all about the teaching. I didn't care at all about the Bible or anything that was said. I mean, maybe the Lord was planting seeds in my heart at that point. I don't remember any of it. I don't know. But so anyway, I'm just trying to say, I understand, right? That perspective of your brother and saying, well, yeah, that's it doesn't make it right. It's not a right thing to do, but that's what got me there. And it wasn't like it got me there and then I became a Christian right after that. That would have been one thing, right? But I didn't. I just kind of bounced back and forth between youth groups all through high school for different girls and here and there. And then it wasn't until I was actually 24 when I got saved. So I was your age by the time I became a Christian. I became what I hated, basically. I hated Christians and then I became one. So it was kind of a weird transition for me. But so anyway, so I just bring that up because of what you just said.
Well, so. I guess I'm a bit strict, I guess.
Yeah.
Because like, I mean, to me that's not okay, because it's almost like an insult to their religion.
to go for girls, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, I agree with you. It's right. It's wrong on many, many levels, absolutely. Yeah.
Because like, I mean, like when you go to church, you go to learn. You don't go there just because you want to chase women.
Right. Yeah. I agree, man. I agree. But the 13-year-old me was like, this girl's pretty. I like her. So if I got to go to this building to impress her or to get her to like me, then great.
I will be honest that I used to be that way. Yes.
Okay.
I used to be that way. I was like, you know what? I want to go to youth group because there's hot girls there.
Yeah.
And it's like, maybe I can get somebody's phone number. But you see, the problem is that I'm socially awkward.
Okay.
So when I approached women, I didn't know what to say.
Right. Well, hey, man, honestly, that might be a blessing, because it might be because of that you didn't, go into a lot of problems with some of these girls,
Well, it's because of that I met my wife.
Okay.
Because, she suffers from the same problems as I do.
Okay. Is she awkward too, or is she outgoing?
She's socially awkward, and then she like pauses and freezes because she doesn't know what to say.
Okay.
And, she gets really nervous and scared because she's like, my anxiety is popping up, and
yeah.
She starts heaving and hiving because like It's like a panic attack.
Yeah. Oh, I'm very familiar with that. I've struggled with anxiety and panic disorder since I was about 13. So and I didn't know what it was till I was 33. So I spent 20 years of just thinking everything in the world was wrong with me. I was in and out of ERs. My parents say, something's wrong. Take me. I got to find out what's wrong. And doctors say that we ran the test. There's nothing wrong with him, which made me mad because I was like, I know something's wrong with me, but they were testing all my vital organs and nothing was wrong, right? Because it was anxiety. It was mental. It was, it was something they couldn't see on a heart test or a brain test, So it was like, it was frustrating. So yeah, I understand that completely. And I still struggle with it to some degree. I've gone through, therapy, and I've studied a lot about it now, because to me with anxiety, it's like the knowledge of it is hugely helpful. Like when you start studying, like understanding what's happening to you when you have a panic attack, that's really helpful, because when you're having a panic attack, you're not thinking straight. You're scared, you're worried, you're freaking out kind of, so you're not really, but once you kind of give yourself those tools of knowledge, then it makes those a little easier to deal with, I think. So I feel for your wife is what I'm trying to say.
It's funny though, because like the more you say your issues and everything, it just gives me memories of everything I've struggled through in school, because I always felt like there was something wrong with me. Because, I was the disabled kid with autism and ADHD.
Okay.
And everyone always treated me like I was special and that I never really belonged.
Okay. Oh, so are you on the autism spectrum then?
Yeah.
Okay. My oldest daughter, that's her job. She works with kids on the spectrum.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, she loves those kids, and she's really good with them, and she has a big heart for people on the spectrum.
So if I don't know, that probably stupid.
There's no stupid, man. There's no stupid.
Well, I was gonna say if I like just gave her a call and have her like study my like autism, maybe she could like tell me where I'm at on the spectrum.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if she's that qualified, because she's kind of new in it, and she pretty much only works with young children at this point. But have you ever gone to any kind of therapy for that, or do you?
No, I haven't actually.
Okay.
They told me that I had to go see a specialist to figure out what kind of medicine I need to take to help me with my autism.
Okay.
And my ADHD.
Yeah. And is that something you want to do, or are you like, you don't want to take medication for it?
Well, I don't know. I don't want to take medication, but then I know I do need to take medication because, I will be honest with you, you have no idea what it's like to have ADHD.
Yeah. I don't. I don't personally. I do.
Because, ADHD, it's interesting. You know why? Because I can never stop moving.
Oh, okay. So it's like a hyperactivity kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
That's what the H is, right? Yeah. Well, I've had you sitting still in a chair for like almost 3 hours, man. So we're doing pretty good.
Well, believe it or not, it drives me crazy.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Because, I can't. This is my biggest problem, and it still is today, that I cannot stay still. If I take a phone call, I'll walk around the whole house with the phone call.
Yeah. See, I used to do that when I was a kid too, but back then, dude, we didn't have wireless phones. Like, so I'd have to walk around with a big long phone cord that was connected to the wall, So I had it rough is what I'm trying to say,
So you'd walk real far and then fall on your face.
Something, yeah. Or you'd feel the cord start to pull on the wall or whatever. It's like, oh man. But yeah. So yeah, I get it, man. I mean, I don't think I've ever had that as far as the hyperactivity, but I know when I was younger, one of my teachers, I want to say maybe my 4th grade teacher or my 3rd grade teacher, had approached my mom and said, "We think Ryan has ADD." I think this was before they had an ADHD. I think that came later.
Mm-hmm.
But ADD was a thing, and they had said that, and they wanted to get me tested. And I think for whatever reason, my mom, said no, he doesn't, or whatever. And I look back on it, and I think maybe I do. I don't know. I mean, if I do, I don't think it's severe. I mean, like I told you, I struggle with anxiety, but that's something different. I think that's not the same thing. So, but the reason they used to say that is because I couldn't sit still. And I was a mile a minute, and I was always, going on and on and on. I was, so maybe that was ADHD before they knew what ADHD was. I don't know, and now I still talk a lot, right? I'm still a talker. I'm still a mover. I'm still, but I guess I'm not sure if it's a actual condition or if it's just my personality,
I will be honest that, yeah, I do talk a lot, only with people I really know.
Right. Sure. Yeah. Because you have the social awkwardness beforehand, right? Yeah. But that's why I keep bringing this back, though, because you say that, but it's interesting because you are literally sitting here for 3 hours talking to somebody you just met 3 hours ago.
Well, you see, it doesn't really bother me when it's on the computer because I'm not there in person having to do it.
Oh, okay. So if you lived in my town and we set this up in my living room, you'd be having a harder time.
Yeah, because I probably want to know what to say, and I'd be really, really nervous because, this is a new generation, so depending on what I say, I might offend someone.
Well, hey, that's always true, right? I mean, that's every day of the week. You're always going to potentially offend somebody with something, right? Because everybody's so easily offended now. Everybody. It's like, oh, that offends me. Your words are violence. It's like, oh, come on, so.
Well, it's funny they say that, and then Hollywood had portrayed violence for many, many years in movies.
Right.
And everything. Right. And it's like, how can you say regular, ordinary people who work hard are violent when your movies you watch have all kinds of violence in it?
Right. Right. And that's whenever they try to blame things like that on, take school shootings, right? They try to blame that on video games or violent movies or violent music. And I always think to myself, well, maybe that played a part, but and I've used this example before. I think it was Call of Duty was the most popular game in America one year, and which is violent, right? Call of Duty is a violent game, and the fact that it was because I think there was a school shooting, and they found out that the kids that did the school shooting were big fans of Call of Duty, so they tried to blame the game. And my first thought was, this is the most bought game by youth in America right now, which means what? Every kid that plays video games is playing this game. Yet only these two kids shot up their high school. So if you're going to blame the game, then that would mean that most of these kids would be shooting up their high schools, right? If it's the game that's doing it, So I think there's obviously more to that than just that.
Well, oh man.
Yeah. So
the thing that cracks me up and everything is I remember this one skit that Eminem did in one of his songs.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, well, crap, I didn't think he was actually going to do it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh man. So let's get back to some more spiritual stuff. So you're where you're at with scripture is you're pretty confident in the Bible being true. You feel like you read it and you trust what it says. But obviously you don't believe in Mormon theology, even though they do have the same Bible, except they have the Book of Mormon to go with it and the Pearl of Great Price and those things to go with it.
Well, I believe that just about every religion has a bit of truth to it. They just
sure.
But the thing is I want to be a part of one religion that's the only way. And you see, I feel that if I associate myself with Catholics or like Mormons, then I'm not going to get to my destination when I die.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, why do you believe that?
Because, Jesus, it seems as if like the Bible, since I've been Christian and everything, and it makes more sense.
Okay.
That Jesus would be the way.
Okay.
And yeah, I'm sure you probably understand why Catholic is not the way. Because like, it doesn't say anywhere in the Bible that you have to pray to Mary for anything.
No, yeah, I'm with you on that. I don't think I would go as far as saying no Catholics will go to heaven, because I think there are some Catholics that do have a relationship with Jesus, even if they may participate in certain rituals that I don't think are biblical, right? But something. Yeah, go ahead.
The thing that makes me laugh, though, is that like Catholics believe that, oh, well, if I sin and I say 3 Hail Marys, they'll all go away.
Right. Right. Which again, you're like, where's that in scripture, right? So I mean, it's, yeah, and I'm with you there. I definitely don't hold to Catholicism in really any way. But up until recently, I always kind of, I had certain stereotypes that I believed about Catholics. And I'm recently learning that I'm wrong about a lot of those, because as I meet Catholics and I talk to some of them or I'll listen to one on a podcast or on the radio or something, like, because one of the things I always say is Catholics never read the Bible. The Catholic priests always tell their congregation, don't read the Bible, just believe what we say. Don't read the Bible. Right. And I believed that for years. And I thought, well, that's dumb, because then you're just believing some guy. How do you know he's right if you can't read the Bible, But I'm meeting Catholics now that say that's bullcrap. Like, I read the Bible all the time. I study. I've met Catholics, dude, that study in depth. Like, they get into the original Greek language. They get into the Hebrew. They really study in depth, and they have solid, to them, solid. I mean, I don't agree with their reasons, but they have studied reasons for believing some of the things they believe, which I appreciate, because that's more than, at least they're not just saying, well, I believe it because the priest said it's true. Right. Mm-hmm. I never trust a person that says, I wouldn't trust a Christian who says, I just believe it because my pastor said it. I would say, well, then you're an idiot, because you don't just believe what a man says. You have to read God's word, So.
Well, I like what my pastor says, and no, I don't believe everything my pastor says. Mm-hmm. He says, don't put all your faith in man, because they'll fail you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. He's right. He's dead right, Yeah. And I had a pastor once that even used to say, don't just believe what I'm telling you. Go look in the scriptures. Study the scriptures. Make sure that what I'm saying is in the scriptures, because if it's not, throw it out. And I appreciate that, because like we were saying earlier, there's a lot of pastors that would want you to trust them because they're in it for money, right? They want you to put them on a pedestal, so you'll give them your money, and then they can buy a private jet and their own island somewhere and everything else, So,
and you know what, I don't know what I've been manifesting to happen to me. Like, I remember when I first started going to this church, I told my pastor what I had wrong with all these other churches I went to. And he's like, look, if you have a problem with my preaches and you don't like what I have to say, come talk to me.
Yes. That's great. Because I've had my share of both of that. I've had some pastors that are very open, and they'll say, hey, if what I'm saying is not biblical and you can show me that, come talk to me. And then the next Sunday, I will tell the whole congregation that I was wrong with what I said. I will own it, right? And then I've had other pastors that'll be like, who are you? Are you a pastor? No, you're not, are you, Ryan? So don't come to me and tell me what you think you know about the Bible, because I'm the pastor, right? And they play like this hierarchy card, like, you're just a little peon churchgoer. I have the credentials. I'm a pastor. I'm like, well, then you shouldn't be if that's your attitude,
Well, what I like about the Nazarene Church is that, like, when you go to church there, everyone treats you as if you're related and your family.
Right. Right. That means they ask you to borrow money and they want to borrow your car and stuff?
No.
Oh.
Of course they don't ask you that.
Well, that's the way I treat my family. So, be like, hey, what's for dinner,
Well, I mean, like, basically what our church is, we help each other out. I mean, most of all the work in our church is all volunteer work.
Yeah. Well, and that's beautiful. I mean, that's the way it should be, right? You read the book of Acts and you see that that's the way the early church was. They were all about the unit, helping the unit, not the individual person,
But, I don't know. So when you hear a church that's mainly based off of all volunteering, what do you think God wants you to get out of that?
Eternal rewards.
Well, you want to know what I think?
Yes, I do.
I think God wants us to see that we have to rely on each other to get where we need to go.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why it's called the body of Christ. Right.
And in the Bible, it says that each and every one of us, we are his chapel.
Yeah.
Because, our body is his temple.
Yes.
And what's funny is that, yes, I will admit that, you will go to hell if you commit suicide.
Oh, you think so?
Yes, I do believe so, because if your body is Jesus's temple, then that means that if you destroy his temple, then you're vandalizing his property.
Right. Well, I guess I would agree that suicide is bad. Right. I would definitely say that that's wrong. It shouldn't happen. It makes me sad that people get to that point where they feel like they have no hope and that they give up their life, But then I think about like how Jesus said he's the only way of salvation, right? And then the Bible talks about how once you get saved, you get indwelt by the Holy Spirit, right? And that's what saves you, basically. So then I think to myself, like, let's say a person, hypothetically, that is a Christian, like genuinely a Christian, not just a religious Christian, but they really are a Christian. And then for whatever reason, they take their own life. So I guess for what you're saying, for me to line up would have to be that at some point when that happens, the Lord would have to leave them, right? He'd have to say, oh, you're going to kill yourself. I'm out of here. I'm taking away my indwelling and I'm gone, right? So.
Well, I don't think it would happen that way. It just,
okay.
You'd have to wait until Judgment Day to find out your fate.
Sure.
Because I mean, I'd imagine we may not see it, but like for everyone who's died, there's like a huge single file line.
Right.
What's the craziest thing? Okay, my pastor was reading me Revelations, right? And I think it was John the Baptist that was actually describing how this was going, is that there's a book of life, and if your name is not in it, you're going to hell.
Right.
Yeah.
So how do you get in the book, though, I guess is the real question. Who's in that book?
Well, I mean, it depends on where your faith is in Christ.
Right. So do you think there's going to be people that, like you just mentioned, like the big line, and you're talking about that's like the judgment line, right? Like you get to the front and they say, oh, you're saved. Nope, you're not. Nope, you're saved. Nope, you're not, kind of thing. Do you think there's going to be people in that line that believed themselves to be Christians, but then they're going to find out that they weren't really?
Well, it's a good question, because it's like for instance, these people believed and they went up to Jesus and was like, hey, Jesus, do you know me? And he's like, I don't know you. Who are you?
Right. Right, exactly. And they say, didn't we do this in your name? And didn't we do this in your name? And he says, away from me, I never knew you. right?
Yeah.
Because there's a pastor I've listened to. His name's Paul Washer. I don't know if you ever heard of Paul Washer, but
No.
he said one time that it's not as important that you know Jesus. What's important is that he knows you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he uses that verse to think, and he uses an example of like the White House. He goes, I can go to the White House, and I think at this time where he said this, Obama was president, and he said, I can go to the White House, but I'll use Biden since that's where we're at now. I can go to the White House and say, hey, I know Joe Biden, let me in. They're going to call Secret Service on me. They're going to call the cops. They're not going to let me in. But if Joe Biden comes out of the front door of the White House and says, hey, I know Ryan, let him in, then they're going to let me in, and I'm going to be sitting there having tea with the president, right? So, I mean, that's why that's the example. Like, it's more important that Jesus knows us than it is that we know Jesus, right? He has to claim us. He has to say, yes, Ryan's my child. He's received me as Savior. Let him into the gates, right?
So here's a question. I know I probably struggle with this too. Is so how, if that's like where you have to be with Jesus, like have him know you before you know him. So how would you approach Jesus then? Like how would you like accept Jesus, or how would you find the path?
Well, I mean, my personal thought is, I think that in every person's life at some point, God shines a light on them, right? That doesn't mean they're saved. It just means he's giving them an opportunity, whether that's through a church service, whether that's through a Christian friend, whether it's just through creation, right? Because Romans chapter 1 says that creation speaks of God, right? We can look outside and say, wow, look at all this. Who made this? Right? That's the first question. Who did this? And then, so I think the key to that is God can see our hearts when we can't see each other's hearts. Like, I can't see your heart, you can't see mine. All me and you can know of each other is the words that are coming out of our mouth pretty much right now as we're talking. So like, I tell you I'm a Christian, you tell me you're a Christian, then I'm just going to take your word for it, and you're going to take my word for it. But you don't really know if I'm saved because you can't see inside my soul. But God can, right? And he knows whether or not I'm going to receive or reject. And if he sees that I'm a person who's going to receive that light that he's shining on me, then he's going to put me on a path that's going to eventually get me to salvation.
Well, to be honest with you, I can sense that you're very Christian simply just by the way you talk. Okay.
Well, that's a good sign, man. That makes me feel good. Yeah. So
it's like, I will admit that in these times of the world, it is pretty scary because from the sounds of it, we're in the end times.
Right.
And something, what scares me more is what kind of influences will be influencing my kids.
Right. Because you being a young guy, you've seen the influences that are already happening. And now you're just now starting a family, right? Your first child's not even born yet. And you're going to have to watch that for the next 20 years, right? You're going to see what's going to happen down the road. And I'm with you, man. It doesn't look like it's getting better. It looks like it's getting worse. So,
well, I'm still talking about spirituality, but the thing that really concerns me is how all these celebrities are now coming out and saying that they worship Satan and thanking him for their career and success and all this. And I'm like, it's not good, because our kids are going to think, oh, well, Satan must be the true God of this world.
Right. Isn't that crazy that they're just flat out saying that now?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's nuts. So the solution is just shoot your TV, shoot your radio, and never let your kids see any of that stuff.
So out of my curiosity, what's your honest opinion about that?
About what specifically?
Celebrities coming out and confessing that they worship Satan.
Well, I think that's always been true for most of Hollywood anyway, even though they're not flat out saying it. I think a big part of it is the backlash to Christianity, because I think Hollywood and things like that have always been anti-Christian and very not welcoming the Christian message or the conservative message, right? This is why most of Hollywood is pro-abortion. Most of Hollywood is, they definitely don't hold to Christian morality, right? They think it's, sleep with whoever you want to, kill your babies if you get pregnant, you don't want to be pregnant, whatever, right? The biggest number seemingly of trans children are, maybe not the biggest number, but you're constantly seeing all these celebrities talking about and my son is transgender. My son is my daughter's non-binary. It's like, why does it always seem to be people in Hollywood that are doing, you know what I mean? Like, is that just a coincidence, or is there something? So, I mean, I guess what I would say was, I think Hollywood and the people in Hollywood, for the most part, have always been evil. And whether or not they know they're worshiping Satan or not, they are. And now the fact that they're coming out and just flat out saying it leads me to think that I'm with you on that we're heading towards the end. I think we're getting closer to the time that Christ will return.
And the thing that scares me more is that, yeah, I watch TikTok, but I don't believe anything on it.
Yeah. Right. Well, how can you? I mean, it's all media nonsense. I mean, how can you really trust any of it? But I saw this one thing, and there's so much information on it that it actually is true. Mm-hmm. That there are some governors in some states that are making it so your kids can join a after-school program studying witchcraft. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Which is like, why? Like, my question with that is always why. I feel the same way about Drag Time Story Hour. I'm like, why? Are there just a bunch of kids lining up saying, boy, this school is great, but you know what we really need? Picture a second grader going, you know what I really need is some witchcraft. Can we have a class on witchcraft, please? No, there's no kids are saying that. It's the adults that are pushing it on the kids. And the question is, why are they pushing it on the kids? What's the end goal there, Well, the end goal there is so they can brainwash your kids into thinking that this is the truth. Right. But why? Is it because they hate the real truth? They don't want their kids to grow up Bible-believing Christians because to them, those are the enemies? Well, the more you think about it, who's putting them up to it? Right. Yeah. Because yeah, just because these people want to do it, there's always somebody behind them pushing them to do it. Right. And you would say that that's probably Satan? Yeah. I mean, it's witchcraft. And okay. Satanism was always known to be witchcraft anyway. Right. Well, and the correlation with drugs and that kind of stuff too is always interesting too, because you look at all these drugs that people are getting hooked on, and it's just like that's mind control too, because now you can control these people. You get them addicted to something, you can control them. You want to know the crazy thing is that in the Bible, I remember that it stated in the Bible that anybody who studied witchcraft or declared to become a warlock were to be put to death by rocks. Mm-hmm. Yep. And it's like, so now we're living in a society that's making it seem like it's okay to study witchcraft. Right. When in the Bible it said it was sinful nature. Right. It's totally backwards. But I mean, I guess that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm wondering if these people that are behind all this are so anti-Bible, so anti-Christianity, that they'll read that part in the Bible and say, hey, look, it looks like witchcraft is wrong. Hey, let's do that. Hey, it looks like this is wrong, whatever the thing is. Let's push for that then, because we don't want to breed more of these crazy psycho Christian kids. We want people that believe what we believe, But it's funny though, because I remember watching something, and there's this kid, I remember he was talked into going to church, and his first day, and then when he came home and went to sleep, God gave him a vision telling him that God created man and woman to reproduce,
Man and man can't reproduce, and woman can't reproduce.
Right.
So what's Satan doing when he exposes people to like binary and non-binary and identifying and all this and that? You know what that's doing, right? It's killing off your bloodline.
Right. Yeah.
So
Well, or it's blurring the lines, like you were saying, because they'll say that two women can have a child, because they'll say a trans woman who's biologically male is a woman. So that trans woman can impregnate a biological woman. Therefore, two women had a baby. Do you see?
You know what's the funny thing though?
Mm-hmm.
Is how much you want to bet that baby when it's born, it's gonna be born with like deformity.
Oh, well, I don't know about that, because what I'm saying is, like, it's still a man. It's just a man. It's a man, no different than you and me. The only difference is they identify as a woman, but they still have all the man parts. So they can still impregnate a woman, even though they claim to be a woman. So I don't think there'll be any genetic mutations from that, because it's still a man's biology having sex with female biology, right? So
I don't know. To me, all of it is not right, and it's all disgusting.
I am with you. I agree. I agree.
It's absolutely disgusting. Yeah.
Right.
And I'm sure transgenders probably watch this podcast. And I don't care if they're offended. It's just how I feel. And it's not my fault. It's how I was raised.
Right. Well, I look at it like this. And I've said this a million times on here. I respect and support their right to believe whatever they want. If a biological male wants to believe he's a female, I support his right to do so. But at the same time, I want him to support my right to believe that he's not really a woman, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I want it to go both ways. I think, why can't we all have our opinions and just leave it at that? And if somebody wants to have an intelligent discussion and talk about it, no problem. I got no problem telling somebody why I believe that or what my reasons are, and I will open my ears and listen to their reasons, right? I have no problem with that. Maybe I'll be convinced. Maybe they can convince me that I'm wrong, and I'll own that, but
this is so funny and so true. And it covers on all topics. Mm-hmm. Is that somebody had a TikTok and they said, if Joe Biden's plane goes through and it sets us back in the 1800s where life was much harder and we had no gas and no oil, everyone would come to terms and be like, well, I'm a man, you're a woman, God is the one and true way. Life just got harder.
Right. Right. Yeah. But
the reason why I say that is because, it's true. Because of all the things that man had invented, it made life a whole lot easier. Mm-hmm. And, I think we take all that for granted.
Right.
It's like, I bet a lot of our grandparents are probably rolling in their graves and thinking how much of spoiled brats we are, because we're taking granted of all the stuff they worked real hard to invent,
right,
or to make possible.
Right. And that's the whole thing with that too, right? Like our grandfather's generation worked their butts off to get where they were and to get basically us to where we are now, because if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be living the way we're living. But then starting with my generation and then, yours and then beyond, it seems like there's less and less of that. There's more, I don't want to work. I'm owed everything. I shouldn't have to work. You should just give me everything I need. And our grandfathers and great grandfathers are going, what are you talking about? You know, I didn't have everything handed to me. I had to bust my butt to get that stuff, you know? So it's almost like backwards from where we were. Right. And I'm not saying that's true of every 20 something or every, you know, of course it's not, but it just seems like that seems to be the direction we're heading to where, like, you know, I just think I'm owed a good life. I'm owed that. Why are you owed that? Well, because I was born. Since I was born, I'm owed a good life. Well, says who? Whoever said that just because you're born and you're a human, you're owed good things? Nobody owes that to you. You know, God doesn't even owe that to you, and he's the one that created you. So, I mean, it's, you know, he might bless you and give you a great life, and that's his blessing to you. Great, wonderful. He loves you and he's giving you a blessing, but he doesn't owe you anything. Right. So, yeah.
So, would it be okay if I took a break to go use the restroom?
We're actually about ready to wrap up.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Yeah, so we can actually cut now unless there's something. Yeah, I'll just leave that to you. So this will be the end. And if there's anything else you wanna say before we go, otherwise we'll call it a wrap.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's up to you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're about 3 hour mark right now, and that's about how long they go. So
okay.
That's what I'm gonna say. So we touched on all three. We had a great conversation. It's good getting to know you. You know.
Well, I mean, if you don't mind, I wouldn't mind being friends.
Yeah, for sure, man. I already think we are friends. It's good to go, man. Absolutely.
Okay.
It's good stuff. So so we'll wrap there. I appreciate you doing this. I know it's not the most comfortable thing to talk to somebody you don't know about some of these deep issues, but you know. Well,
to be honest with you, I feel like I already know you.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I feel the same. Yeah, that's what's cool about this, right? You get to know each other really quick. Because usually when you meet somebody for the first time, you don't go, hey, what do you think about politics and spirituality? You know, tell me all your deep, dark secrets about what you know, that's not normally what you would do. So, but yeah, man, I appreciate it. And we'll keep in touch for sure on Facebook and stuff. And, you know, like I said, Justin's one of my best friends, so I'll be in touch with him for sure. So,
you know, one thing that actually kind of made me think of like the 3 hour mark.
Oh, yeah.
Is Rush Limbaugh.
Oh, yeah? Did he do 3 hours?
Yeah, he did radio shows for Rush Limbaugh. Man.
Okay.
That really broke my heart when he passed away.
Yeah. Yeah, he was one of the pioneers, man, of conservative radio for sure. Yeah, he was cool. I liked him too. But so, all right, man. Well, you enjoy the rest of your evening, and you know, tell your mom and Justin I said hi.
Okay.
All right, man. We'll talk to you later.
God bless.
God bless, man. We'll talk to you later. Yeah. Bye.
Talk to you later. Bye.
I hope today's conversation did something for you. I would love to hear your thoughts. Please send me feedback at whycan'twetalkaboutthat@proton.me. And if you are brave enough to let everyone know your thoughts, please share them on the podcast's Facebook group. Please tell all your friends about this podcast and let me know if you know anyone who might like to be a guest. Thanks. Here's a little piece of what next week's episode will sound like.
If you're a person who is a politician and say, yeah, I'm good with abortion, then I know that I can't really trust you on other stuff.
Right.
Right.
But to the pro-choice side, they think that's ridiculous. That you feel that way, because to them it's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, and I think that's the good dividing line there, right? If you don't get that, then we can't agree on much else, probably. If you do get that, then we have a chance. Right. But if you think it's cool to kill babies, then sorry, we're not going to have. We're not going to see.
But I guess that's my point. Like the pro-choice person most of them don't think it's okay to kill babies. They just don't believe that's what's happening.
Okay.
See, that's why I've always said that's really the question. Is like
I think that's true to a point. I think there are many people who probably don't. They really do believe it's not a baby.
Right.
But I would say most people know deep down that it is, and those are just their arguments. That's what they tell themselves.
But so deep down to where they're not conscious of it, or they are conscious of it and they're suppressing it on purpose?
I think you can suppress it so much that it becomes unconscious.
Okay. Right.
But like even Chris Rock did a whole skit about that.
That was great.
Like, no, I'm totally cool with killing babies. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he was just honest. Like that's what we want.
Right.
Give us, let me do that.
number of homosexuals, a certain number of transgender, a certain number of in the military, right? It goes back to that whole thing where, like the airline, I think it was America. I think it was it American or United? I forgot which one it was, but they were saying they were going to make sure that more than 50% of their pilots were going to be minorities or who's talking? Is that Justin?
Yeah.
Does he know that you're doing a podcast? But tell him shut up. Really, tell him, hey, shut up, dude. We're doing a podcast.
Oh, he was telling me to tell Justin to shut up.
Oh. He was telling Cameron to tell you to shut up.
Oh, we're doing a podcast, man. What's the deal? Unbelievable. But anyway, so they had the thing where they were saying we're going to have a certain number of minority pilots, certain number of women pilots.